little hello. Don't bring them on yet.
No, okay.
No, I was saying, that's what I'm saying. Wait, let's say hello first.
Mhm.
So we'll let everyone show up. I want to give a little hello to everyone. So what we're doing today is talking about adversity. We all face it in learning to ride, whether it's dressage or anything, learning anything that requires this level of mastery, this in-depth skill. It's not something you can master in a year or so. Like my daughter, you know, she can ride at the walk at the lunge line. So she says, I can walk, I don't need lessons. I can ride. Or yeah, she says, I can ride, you know. And I'm like, so yeah, it takes resilience. It takes willing to come back again and then again and again. And we've brought on 4 riders who have faced different kinds of adversities along the way and have had success. Of course, they're on their journey. None of them are finished with their journey. None of us are. We're not either. But I wanted to bring them on to celebrate the success that they've had thus far and to let them talk about their stories. And full disclosure, they are alumni in our What Why How course, and I would like to be able to tell you all about the What Why How course. It starts on Monday of this week, so I'd like to tell you all about it at the end of this. But first, we can get going with talking about them. Yeah, let's bring them on. So let's see, I have to find them all. Here's oops. It does. I know it does.
I know it's sometimes tricky to catch it.
Okay, I've got one. Let's see. Naomi, there's. Oh, I got 2 on.
Ricky there.
Oh,
second from.
Oh, there's Ricky. Oh, yeah, good. Okay. Hopefully, I don't accidentally promote somebody else, the panelist. It could happen, you know. See lots of great faces here. And Linda's, did I miss Linda?
I didn't see her name yet.
Maybe Linda's not here yet. Okay.
I'll just wait.
Yeah, when Linda gets here, we'll bring her on. We can wait just a moment. Say hello to everyone. Let everyone get their cameras figured out and everything.
Hey.
Hey, hey, hey. Hey, ladies. Lovely. Lovely people. Do we need to turn on the captions or is it already on?
Oh, no, I forgot. Sorry,
Okay.
that's the one thing.
Yeah.
Stop live stream. No, but did they go?
No.
Captions, they're always in a different place. Yeah, they're captions. Okay.
There they are. There
should be on now.
Sorry about that, Ricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just was hoping that Linda would show up. But let's get started without her. We can always.
Early in the morning for her.
It
She's
is.
in Australia. Naomi's in Australia too. What time is it, Naomi?
It's really early for Naomi.
4:30 a.m.
4:30. Oh my God.
Dressed and ready to go. You're amazing.
I know you look awake.
I know you look as awake as I am, like at 10 in the morning.
Did you even go to sleep?
Yeah.
She's an early bird. She goes to bed early. Yeah, that's why she's able to make a lot of our things, you know. Yeah, and Linda's in a different part of Australia.
She's an hour later. She's on the
Yeah,
East Coast, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite so early, but
So
maybe
no excuse for her.
yeah, well, you know, life happens. So we'll bring her on. Let's just get going.
Yeah,
I had asked each one of them to send me some pictures. And so I've been able to get pictures from each of them, before and after pictures, and put them onto a little presentation. So I'd like to start with that. And Naomi, we're going to talk about you first. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good. I thought, we'll talk about you and you could then go to bed afterwards. Go back to bed.
That wouldn't be kosher. I can't do that. I have to see the whole thing.
Hey, so let's share this. It's better. Present. There we go. So, yeah, we're talking about pursuing dressage, sort of like, I thought pursuing was a funny title. It's like we're always pursuing it,
It's always faster, I know.
It is.
Always faster.
We never quite get there, but it goes for everybody.
Arms outstretched.
It's like the
Exactly.
coyote of the roadrunner.
Yeah.
Totally.
Comparison with
Yeah.
the coyote.
And then along the way, you get smacked upside the head, you have, explosions and you fall off a cliff. Okay,
True.
so let's get going. So Naomi, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about yourself, or we can ask some questions, but I want to first just share some pictures of you that you sent of your horse, Lucy, before and after. I think, oh, you sent me some other pictures too. Do I have them?
Yeah, that's
I don't have.
Oh no, that would be me there. So that's probably that's
Yeah,
probably
you sent me some other
the
pictures that I
two
mistakenly.
trot pictures. Yeah.
I didn't
This
have
probably shows the development as well as anything else. I think that was the same.
the other
Yeah.
two were top pictures, but it was the same time period too. I think even the same show,
Yeah. It was the same gap. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So the before pictures, what year were those pictures?
Those pictures would be probably early 2020, I think. Yeah. So we were competing in our first year of novice and terrified.
Oh,
and had no idea. We were sailing around like Pony Club a bit, but I was determined that this pivot that was caused by my failing eyesight. So up until that point, my aids used to consist of a 2-point seat and a death grip on the reins while we steeplechased our way around the Australian countryside over low hunt jumps. We call it hunting, but in Australia it's basically riding flat out over courses. So for 20 years my butt didn't really touch the saddle. I was riding off the track thoroughbreds that were very difficult to hold over fences quite fast. So pivoting to dressage was something I hadn't done since I was a child at Pony Club and I was eventing. And we all know that when we were eventers that dressage was just the boring bit you got past so that you could get out onto the jumps.
right. I'm going to actually stop the share so we can see your face better for a bit. Oops.
So then my eyesight deteriorated quite rapidly due to a disease I won't go into, but it meant that I was no longer able to ride out safely, and my friends started to be concerned that counting me into jumps that I couldn't see was probably not good for my health or their mental well-being. So we went to dressage, and I took up dressage. I went, okay. Yep, like you do, right? Oh, okay, well, this is easy. We'll just sort of get the gear and join the local club that's just started and go along and, just ride some patterns in this arena. It's, the same size arena everywhere. So with my eyesight, that meant, okay, I'm not going to get surprised by the course or the terrain, so it shouldn't be too bad. And I had the perfect horse for that was perfectly bred for dressage, which was a Baroque Frisian. So, of course, I look back now and when you read the text and when you listen to the masters talk about ideal conformation, difficult conformation, challenging conformation, she ticked every box. I was in blissful ignorance at the time, you buy by the heart. So I went, we can do this.
Black and herring, it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, she meets the requirements. She's tall, dark.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
I kind of started, and we went round, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm doing okay. And I went, oh, I'll do some competitions, because I'm that sort of person, like you, Shana. I get a bit driven. I like to find some markers on how I'm progressing, and that just seemed like a good way to get a bit of data that didn't come subjectively from me, so it came from somebody else. Started novice, went, these scores aren't great. These scores are in the 50s. How do I fix this? Oh, I'll get some lessons. I'll go to clinics. So I trotted off to my first clinic, and I said to the international coach that was there, what should I do to get better? She said, you need to go and start with reading the classics. I said, okay, give me a list. So she gave me a list, and I wandered off with, I couldn't remember them all. There was some guy, his name sounded like podiatrist. And I couldn't quite remember. That would be nice. That was the only one I could recall. Oh, so I got the books. I bought a handful. I'm an ex-retired teacher, so English arts can't be that hard to read these things. The manual, got the manual, and then realised that not only were they not really written for a middle-aged woman in the 21st century pivoting from hunting, that they were a text for fellow academic understanders of equitation. So it was brilliantly detailed and fabulous, but I had no idea where I fit, like where to start, what to do with the material, how to work out where I currently was, any of that. So I went, oh God, I'm going to need help. I live in the middle of whoop whoop. There's no help here. There's no help in the state, let alone in my region.
Yes.
So I went, I'll have to go and look online. And I know we all poo-poo the fact that the phone is always listening, but I think the phone was listening to some of my conversations with my girlfriends over wine about how desperately I was going to require help. And up popped Artistic Dressage in my feed, because I was searching things like the podiatrist. So I went and looked at what just the videos that you and Thomas had posted, and I went, oh, well, that makes sense. Now I see why you would do that and what it actually is and where it fits in a sequence. So jumped on board, thought, oh, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. There's a challenge coming up, the Thinking Writer Challenge, as it was. And that year, I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, that year your arena pattern that we rode for the challenge was shoulder into volta to leg yield to the center line.
I remember that. Yeah.
The only laterals I had done to that point in my life were when my thoroughbred that was off the track would come sideways into A to halt in my dressage tests. So moving sideways in some sort of deliberate fashion with, gait parameters and lines of travel and bend was completely new to me. But I went out and wrote it. I couldn't find it, but I did submit, I think, a video in that early Thinking Writer Challenge. I must try and find it. But sailed around there and went, oh, that's a little bit harder than I thought. I think I need expert help. So cut a long story short, joined, did WWH, did it again the following time, and I'm now doing it again the third time round that it's running. Yeah. And it's like I've learned a whole new language, and I think of it like that because I tried to learn Dutch, because my horse, of course, is a Dutch breed, the Friesian, by books. And it was interesting because you first of all, you learnt the language, and that was great. The base words, how they were modified, how you turned them into collectives, where they were sequenced in a line, and you got the hang of that. And you painfully wrote out all the words and the translations and did that, and then you started constructing really basic sentences, and this, and you tried to get your pronunciation, and you were feeling pretty happy with yourself, and then somebody spoke to you in that language, and it was a whole different ball game, because it was coming at you fast, and your brain was trying to work out what they were saying, translate it, work out a response. And that's kind of when I started to, that's the first time I think I ever started to talk to a horse, and it was faulting, it was bad, but it was, I would go out there and the ride was a conversation. It was a conversation. I could, she would talk to me and I would say, I would listen and I would talk back in my badly fractured, broken new language, and she would exhibit a great deal of patience, which was brilliant. And there was one of your lives the other day, the flow that you were talking with Catherine about, and you said, you know, it's important to have a clear headset. When you know the language and you go in, you listen because you've been given a tool to hear your horse, so you automatically almost end up in flow because you're locked into what your horse is telling you and responding to that in that dialogue. And that is just the absolute most valuable thing I think WWH does. It brings you a connection with your horse. And from there, if you're working together, you can solve most things by using the structured processes that you've got. Like you've got a toolkit, you've got a channel, you're starting to get your head around the language, and away you go. So that's how I ended up on WWH. It's not, like you said, Shana, it's not quick. No. It's not easy, and you've got to do the work. Like the first year round, you're just scrambling to keep your head above water. You're familiarising yourself, and then the next time round, the same thing. You feel a little bit more confident and comfortable. By the third time round, this time, I've got a young horse coming on. I've gone from riding novice to elementary, starting to train, hopefully, the third degree bend movements and the flying changes this year for a chance to get Lucy there, and doing that with a horse that in no way is built to do this. So it's got to be kind, it's got to be sympathetic, it's got to be informed, and it's got to, and I've got to know when I've reached the limits of what she's capable of.
It's been a challenge with her because she doesn't have a lot of internal go. So you've had to really learn how to remove all the blockages in her body and in her thinking so that there's nothing holding her back. So because you can't squander any little bit of impulsion with her. You can't afford to lose any of it. You need every little bit of it. So you have to really learn how to clear the obstacles in her body, the blockages, and yours. Because as riders, right, we all get in the way of our horses. And if you have a horse with a lot of energy, it might not be a huge problem. But with a horse like this, okay, you're going to have a big problem. Though you ask the horse to go, and the horse goes, nah, nah. You know, and you encountered that. You encountered this exact scenario. It's
exhausting. I'll get to the end of a dressage test panting because for the canter tour, you know, I have to bring all of the energy for her, particularly, you know, where you're asking front end to lift and you're asking her to use hind legs that aren't built for her. I have to be light, but at the same time I have to be engaged. And like you say, it's so easy to brace. It's so easy to get contorted because you're so desperately trying to help and support her because she's not bringing that lightness or that hind end power to the table without a great deal of assistance. It's been I think it makes you a better rider because Biggles, by comparison, who's built like a Ferrari compared to my diesel Land Cruiser that is Lucy, you can just sit on him. And I literally, I think I posted that, cried the first day I rode him at the Breakers because I had no idea how that power would feel when it was coming to the table with you. You didn't have to crank it up.
Nice.
They're both Frisians, right?
Yeah.
Both horses. So it's different types though, right? So
yes, very different, yeah.
And you can see in the pictures that, you know, the issue that Frisians often have with a canter, right? Like traditionally, Frisians used to be driving horses, right? So they had brilliant tricks, but not especially good canters, and that was a real issue with Lucy, wasn't it? Here in the left before picture, she's a little bit, you know, downhill on the forehand, and then on the right now she's uphill and she's round and she's lifting the withers.
What stands out to me, not just how much rounder she is, but how much more muscled she is. In the picture on the left, she almost looks like a thoroughbred with feathers. You know? And on the right, she's round, she's muscled, she looks like a powerhouse in a good way.
She looks
Beautiful.
baroque, and the croup
Yeah,
looks round and
yeah,
very well muscled, you know.
exactly.
And
The
she
shoulders
has,
are muscled.
you see
Exactly.
the lift in the withers, whereas in the
Mhm.
Yeah.
before pictures, the withers are down. It's like
Mhm.
this 1, 2 down, 1, 2 down,
Yep.
you know, canter on the left, and then on the right, it's more like the up 2, 3, up 2, 3, like a Viennese waltz, right? That has the
Yeah.
beat on the first, you know, or the emphasis on the first beat, the up movement. And it's hard to create when a horse doesn't have it naturally, right? And traditionally, people always said you can't change the canter, like you can change the trot and everything, but the canter and the walk, they stay what they are, basically. And it's not true, right? So you can change them if you know what you're doing. And you did, you made a big change.
If you have expert help.
Yeah,
It helps that.
makes it easier, yeah. But yeah,
And the
it's really
exercises,
good
you
to
know,
see.
the shuffling. Yeah.
So what made the biggest difference with her? Learning, implementing,
For me,
changing.
it was the thing I'd avoided through fear, which was footfalls, because it was just so overwhelming to think about, you know, trying to connect feet to the ground and
Learning to feel where the
direct
footfalls
aid
are.
into feet, you know, connect them to me, connect them to the ground. So it was connecting her feet to the ground and being and then I started to understand what her problems were, which hind was sticky, which one wouldn't come under, where she wanted to throw her weight. And then, of course, combine that with the Feldenkrais, which basically revealed me to be a twisted hag of a creature that needed to sort of align myself, because we'd got into that pattern after 10 years
Yeah.
of propping each other up, because I was completely folded through the left side. So straightening myself up, getting upright, starting to use my core effectively, and all those metaphors and rider imageries that come up. I did the rider development course just when it was a bonus with WWH, and I whizzed through that in about 2 weeks, and it blew my mind, because it suddenly, I can't even go for a walk. I told Catherine the other day, I can't even go for a walk anymore without exploding in my head, because I spend every step of the walk analysing what my body's doing and how it's rotating. And that was the thing, understanding the biomechanics of my body and her body, and then what happened when they went together and where I was getting in the way. You know, that you see in that first photo how far forward I am. It's sort of like I'm trying to drive her forward, because I'm not understanding that I'm actually driving her down into the ground on the third beat. You know, it's just a different way of understanding the biomechanics. And it's like Thomas says, if you can free the energy flow, and we're not there yet, but if you can open the channels and send the energy in the direction you need, it changes. And you can power up, and that's and you can't go through past novice dressage. In Australia, elementary is the level with shoulder in, haunches in, simple changes, walk pirouettes. So it's the lead into the next level of stuff. But you can't, like even the walk pirouette, if you don't know the footfalls, you're never going to be able to march that horse around, you know. And in the simple changes and the counter canter drove me mad. I don't know how many submissions I did to Thomas going, why can't I make the counter canter work? And the answer was time. You have to build the strength and balance. And I was like, no. If I do it harder and I do it more and I study more, I can get this today. Even though, Shana, you told me no over several years.
Yeah. And how is your canter now?
It's beautiful. It's so rock solid, you know. It's like
that's amazing, huh? That's the amazing thing.
Yeah.
It works.
The time that it took, and that's the thing, you know. It's like this course is so fantastic, because every time I went, oh God, I'm doing something wrong, I go back to the modules, I go back to the theory, I go back to the reading and the stuff I'd submitted, the feedback, the suggestions Thomas had given me for, you know, there's not just one way to get this, try this, come back, try these walk trots, build it up. all of that. So it's like having the Encyclopedia Britannica, you know. Oh God, how old am I? Books, remember when everything was in books? Yeah, at your fingertips, you know.
Yeah, you're also
And I
really
would literally
dedicated, and you stay with it. You really, you've committed yourself to it. You stay with it. You've done the work. So it's the work doesn't do itself. You have to do.
Yeah, you're extremely disciplined. I mean, there's nobody else who is in every single Q&A or hot seat, whether it's 1:30 in the morning or 3:30 in the morning, or doesn't matter. You're there, you submit your videos, you ask your questions, and then you do the homework, and that really pays off, you know. So you really make use of all the materials, all the input, and you really take everything we give you, you know, every little tip we give you, you try it out, you know, you come back, say, try this, and this is what happened, and, you know, then we can give you more feedback, you know, whether it worked or didn't work. I mean, even if I tell you, well, try this, and you come back and say, well, that was completely, you know, flop. That's information to me, then I can tell you, okay, well, you know, maybe try this instead, you know, so. And then
just post it. Somebody else might find it works for them, or something goes, oh, I'll try that. Oh, yes. So, you know, what may not work for me might give me some learning or understanding that will work for somebody else. You know, it's like.
It may work for you in 3 months or in 6 months. That's always the thing. It's all or nothing. Is that just because it didn't work once doesn't mean it will never work. It could be that now it is the wrong time, but in 3 months, it'll be brilliant. It'll be exactly what you need, you know. It's weird. Writing is weird, right? It's kind of what happens.
And then it's so funny because, like you say, then all of a sudden something will click, and all of the openings will go into place, and you'll get something that you tried so hard for, and you'll get it effortlessly because you have internalized enough of the habitual patterns that are required. And this is like the flying changes. Brought her back into work, and I just rotated my pelvis yesterday in walk, and her whole haunches just went whoop. And we went off and lifted into canted apart from walk, and it was just my pelvis that turned. You know, 6 months ago, it was me trying to engineer the whole body. Now turn your head 3 degrees. Now move this arm back and this arm forward, and bring this leg on, and take that lower hip back, and breathe. And I mean, that's the point of the course. It helps you learn the patterns, learn the weight shifts, the bend changes, the transitions, so that eventually once you've suppled your body and your mind to it and your horses, you've made it really possible for it to happen. And I have absolute faith that it will.
It's always just polishing the basics. I mean, you have to have an understanding of how things work, you know, the what, why, how. You have to kind of have a mental picture in your mind. You have to have an understanding of how it works. And then it's really just a matter of improving these basic skills, shift the weight, change the bend, move the hips, move the shoulders. And that's really all it is, right? So if you practice and polish these basics enough, you can put them together into a flying change or into a half pass or something, almost anything, basic. That's the good news, bad news, right? There's no quick and easy way to do it. But if you just keep working on the basics, you'll get there, you know? I mean, some people get there faster, some people take longer, or some horses get there faster, some horses take longer, but you get there, you know? And that's reassuring.
And I came into elementary, you know, like you would normally be schooling 2 levels above what you're riding. And we came into elementary because we came out of riding para dressage into open, and the para dressage levels don't match up. So we came into elementary not training. Like we started training elementary the day we started riding it in competition. It's not ideal, but
actually,
I know. And, you know, talk about putting blocks in front of yourself. In 12 months, we've gone from percentage of 58 to, of 51s and 50s and 51s. In the 12 months of this year, we've gone to 59.8, I think was our last one. We just missed the 60. But that's like nearly a 10% improvement in 12 months at a level that we're riding competitively, you know, like we're not established in stuff. And it was just, I put that down to the knowledge and the understanding I had, you know, and going in knowing that it's not ideal. So don't go in there with expectations. Just go in and go, you know, it is what it is. Let's let's use the competition opportunities to get some feedback and work on a surface and in a location that might bring her the more energy that she has at home, and see what we get. So I was down, and we were down on ourselves a bit, because it was like, oh, we're just creeping up these numbers. But, I don't have a background in dressage. Other people would be throwing a party, to see that amount of improvement. So
yes,
you've got to keep perspective, and that's the other thing the course does. The more you understand, the more you understand how long these things will take.
Yeah.
It's in this modern world where everyone tries to, buy it ready-made. What can I buy it? You can't. Got to do the work.
Before we wrap up your portion, can we take a step back, and can you talk a little about your the issue you have with your eyes and how this has affected things? Because I wanted people to come away from this like being inspired, because we all sit there and kind of throw ourselves a pity party, when things aren't going perfect. We all do it, and it helps sometimes to know what other people have succeeded in spite of. So
yeah, sure.
Because you mentioned the dressage. If you could go into this a little bit, you don't have to go into massive detail. We could do a whole interview with just you sometime and just talk about that, because it's an interesting story. It's an interesting journey you've been on, but maybe just give us a little summary.
Okay. The quick version is that it's a degenerative inherited disease, so it's progressive, like a lot of diseases are, and it's a progressive constriction of the field of vision. So the 130, 140 degrees that people enjoy, which is the full peripheral all the way around to central vision, if you've got 20/20 vision, is with retinitis pigmentosa is progressively diminished. So I was able to jump, compete, drive a car, live independently, all of those things when I was younger. And then as time's gone on and the disease has progressed, it reaches certain gateways, like when I lost my driver's license, when I stopped being able to go to new places without being able to have someone with me to help me out, and when I started to lose the detail of things. So currently I've got, and this has been the case since I joined Ritter, pretty much across, I've got 8 degrees of central vision. So what that is the center 8 degrees that you have is what the part of your eye used for reading. So I might be legally blind and facing a bit of an uphill battle to do some things, but I can still read, and it's like a godsend. I can still read a screen, I can still watch a screen, and I've still got functional mobility. I can move around no one would know if you saw me here at home, because I know my environment, unless you leave something on the floor and I run into it, but I'm not expecting it. So that's why I transitioned to dressage, because it's a controlled space. It's the same space every time. And now I'm just starting to understand that for me to get any better at this now, because of the limit of what I see in the ring, I'm going to have to count strides. I'm going to have to count strides for the entire test. There are people out there competing blind or vision impaired riding, the way blinder than me, so I can perceive my letters if they're at the moment they're fluoro orange and double the size of everybody else's, but I can see them as long as they're directly in front of me in that 8 degrees. So if you think about looking through the roll of a toilet roll, and sort of thinking that's what you can see. So and that's only, you can see that in ideal situations. So if it's overcast, I struggle to see anything. It's all very grey. There's no contrast. And that means that if I'm riding in an indoor, or if I'm riding in the rain or an overcast day, it doesn't matter how bright those signs are, I'm basically riding in a fog. So there's the element of anxiety that comes in, and there was a couple of days this year where at one stage I didn't even know where I was in the arena. You've got to be able to you've got to control it, or you'll just freak out and lose it. So while you're dealing with the panic of where am I, and you're still trying to not let the horse know you have no idea and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you count the strides, or you ride the pattern sufficiently at home that you know where you're going. And then on the other extreme is if it's really bright, the glare makes it impossible to see very much either. And the other thing I can maybe see my horse's ears in ideal conditions, and that's not at home because I've got an indoor, so it's shaded, so I can't really see her, so I have to go by feel. And as recent videos would indicate, I can't see the cones. The cones that are all over my arena.
Oops.
Lucy has learned to go. Lucy makes adjustments. She'll veer suddenly, and I'll go, "Whoops, missed the cone gate." Especially in simple change training. Biggles understands at this point there's been a breakdown in communication. He understands he's to stand on every cone. So I wrote out yesterday prescribing this beautiful half vaulter to return to the track, and we stopped dead. And I went, "Why we stopped?" And I looked down, and I had managed to line the cone up directly, and he was standing there, pleased as punch with himself because he'd stood on the cone, gave it a bit of a paw, and was looking for praise and reward.
Some people think the goal is to step on them at first, and then
some horses.
Yeah, some horses. And when they realize the goal is to go between them, they actually do it and they help you. So once your horses understand you need to go between them, it gets easier for you. I've seen that over and over,
Oh, good. Like, that's good to know that he will eventually work out it's the gap we're aiming at.
Exactly. So how do you do it in competitions? Do you have somebody standing at the letters calling that you kind of hear where you need to go, or?
No, but my my coach, what we'll do is we'll go out, because if it's an arena with a lot of cars or significant features around it, we can often go, if I can't see the letter, she'll say aim at that tree or that building or whatever. So we do a quick reconnoiter of the landmarks to help. But the only real way, calling is, people go, you could get callers, and I try to explain to them that's like sonar, it sounds like it would be great to have someone there, but when you're at the other end of the arena and they're calling, it's not that simple. It's another language to learn. So I've avoided that. Now the problem is that you've got to, every time you go to a competition, find 11 people with nothing better to do on a day, and it's just not, it's not feasible. There is an electronic version now that is on the market, but at this stage I can still manage it with the fluoro cones, so the fluoro letters, and as best I can, and we just make do. I kind of don't want to think too far. It's going to overwhelm my brain if I think too far ahead about what I'm going to do when there's even less vision. So we'll just deal with what we've got at the moment and have fun doing that, and get resilient and get our mindset right and bounce back from adversity. And you've got to have a sense of humor. I think
you do.
You do.
Totally. You have a great sense of
humor.
humor. So,
I think, and I after competitions, doesn't matter how despondent we are over what's happened, we usually find a good laugh on the way home with coffee and cake or whatever it is we're doing. I have a friend who coaches me at home and who drives me and who grooms for me and does all of that. So it's just we're having a lot of fun. It's challenging, but it's rewarding, and we'll just keep going, do the best we can, get better, and see where it gets us.
Yeah. So a lot of people are saying how inspiring you are, and how how amazing that is what you're doing in spite of the challenges. And then Frances Sizemel has a question. She says, "Your partial vision, does this have a beneficial effect as being in the bubble and not distracted? Would be interesting if it does."
Well, it does, and I was riding a test at Clare a couple of years ago, and a girlfriend was recording, and as I was coming down the side in canter, she started yelling out, "Error of course, error of course!" And I'm thinking, I'm not making an error of course, and I was like kept cantering, and then pulled up, and across in front of me in the arena, this horse just galloped, this riderless horse just went flying through, and she'd been yelling loose horse.
Loose horse.
Loose horse, and I had no idea that horse was there or coming. I was just focused, and I was like, I am not an error of course. I am not.
That's great.
Well, then I just stood there while they rounded this horse up and took it away, and it was So it does in a way help you, and because your other senses have to focus in on what you're doing,
Yeah.
it does help eliminate distractions because you don't see the diversions that are going on that other people might see. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's an inspiring story. Thank you.
Really is,
Thank you for sharing. Naomi, what is one thing that you are working on right now, hoping to improve or learn this year?
This year we would like half pass. So bend in the direction of travel, which again for the Frisians, a bit tricky, and that inside hip really has to drop, and I need to understand what to do with my body, and we would like to try for flying changes, not necessarily for competition, but just to be able to understand the mechanics of it and get the satisfaction of knowing that this is something that I've learnt completely online from you guys. Like it's
amazing.
There's no coaching doing it. It's just me, the horse, and whatever I put up, and Thomas feeds back to me on. So
in the hot seats, you participate a lot in the hot seats.
Yeah.
Which it pays off.
Yeah.
It does.
Thank
you.
We'll do this.
By the end of the year, I think you'll be able to do the half passes.
For sure.
Definitely.
Maybe the fine change.
We're close, I think it's realistic to expect it. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm going to demote you as panelist right now so that I can bring Linda on, but I might at the end, if everyone is still here, I might bring you all on together again. Let's see here. I have to find this. Where is this?
You like me leaning in, trying to read on it.
Yeah, there we go.
Not so many options.
Okay, and so Linda, I'm going to bring you on because I have Linda next.
She's still here.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for waiting, everyone. Linda's coming on.
Second.
Yep. Here she comes. And thanks, Jen and Ricky, for your patience in waiting. If one of you is pressured for time, let me know and I'll rearrange the order. Okay. Just let me know in the chat or something. Hi, Linda.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Another Australian.
Yeah, another Australian. So, yeah, we got to hear Naomi's wonderful story. I wanted to then talk about Linda and her horse Valentine. Should we share the
I should probably look at the pictures
first. Look at your
first.
pictures because that gets it going.
And then you can tell us a little bit the story of you and Valentine.
I needed to have you on because this story made us literally cry during our assessments. I mean, it's such a touching story. So let's get over here.
Amazing horse.
So here we go. So, yeah, this is Valentine, and on the left is the before picture, on the right is the after picture. There are other pictures too. This is just what we scrambled up quickly, right? But it's fairly representative. I mean, he looks like, a cute pony, on the left, and on the right, he looks like this big, powerful, amazing, gorgeous horse. And you did this work. Really, really.
It looks like a different horse.
Well done.
It doesn't look like it's the same animal.
And
he's only a pony. He's only 14.2 hands.
I know, and you're petite too, but you made him look.
Very little.
He is a pony, and he looks like a pony on the left, but on the right, he doesn't look like a pony.
Like a bigger horse.
He looks like a colored warm blood. He looks like it's really amazing.
The thing is, he looks in all the videos I've seen, he looks calm, and he actually looks sort of easy to ride, but he's not, right?
There's
so
a
you have to tell everybody what he's like, what he's really like.
And I know you're a little nervous, so pretend he's talking to us again.
Exactly.
Can you? just share with us the story right from the beginning again. It's a really great story. I really want to hear it.
So, when I saw the photos that you just showed, I was actually surprised myself, to be honest, because I think I lose track of how we're developing all the time, and I'm always looking up and forward and going, we're not doing this yet, we're not doing that yet. So when I saw the photos between that you just showed, I was like, wow, we are actually getting somewhere. It's just very slow. So Valentine is a Australian heritage stock horse, and I met him a few years ago now. I had 3 horses at the time. I had a friend of mine. She's like, "There's a horse down the road. I think you'd really like him. Do you want to come and have a look at him?" I'm like, "No, don't need another horse. Got enough of them. Really shouldn't be doing this." And she's like, "Oh, he's really nice. Come and have a look at him." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'll come and have a look at him." And I rocked up and looked at his cute face, and I'm like, "Oh, I really like this one." So as you do sometimes, and I don't recommend, I ended up buying him just because I liked his face. Probably shouldn't have, but anyway. So the day I saw him, he was flighty. You could handle him, but he was not rideable. He wasn't safe to ride. I literally just walked him around a few times, and the owner was like, "I don't know much about his history, but he's got some sort of fancy name." I'd got, like, the previous owner had gotten bucked off. She'd left him in a paddock for 3 years because she just didn't know what to do with him and got scared of him. And it's like, eventually she's like, "I can't keep him. He's got to go somewhere." He was just running wild in a herd. So I went, "Okay, for $200, I'll go and take you home." How much can go wrong, right? Well, did I find out? So once I had him home, I realized just how traumatized he'd been. I was able to through his fancy name, which was actually a registered stock horse name, I was able to track his breeder, and his breeder explained that he's a heritage stock horse, and the heritage stock horses go all the way back to the original war horses in Australia. They're quite a special breed, so he's actually quite particularly bred, and he comes from one of the most famous heritage stock horse stallions in our country. And this horse holds, until today, the record for having won the most camp drafts ever in Australia. So he's really quite spectacular bred, which I didn't know at the time. It was just luck. So what I'd learned is I didn't know much about stock horses, especially the heritage ones, and what they had bred them for was, back in the days, they needed them to work all day on a farm and then go compete on the weekend. So they're really high energy horses. They have a lot of power and energy, and they can go all day, every day. And with him, that came out in nervousness. He was anxious, he was spooky, he was hurt-bound, he had all these issues. And again, I didn't realize that at the beginning. I thought, "Oh, I'll just calm down, he'll be fine. I'll work, I'll work with him a little bit, I'll sell him, it'll be fine." But that just was never going to happen. So the more I got to know him, he would be stressed by me just looking at him. The amount of tension and pressure he was perceiving was me looking at him. I was not able to even hold a whip. He'd freak. He would, if he could run, he would run. If he felt overpressured, he'd buck. If I cornered him, he would try to bite or kick me, all out of fear, just pure fear. He was severely herd-bound, could not leave the other members of the herd. When he first arrived, he would not sleep in the paddock, he wouldn't rest. He couldn't even relax in the paddock itself, in a herd environment. He was just mentally and emotionally a mess, turns out. But that's okay, we can work with that. And then he physically, I learned that he had a jammed up right shoulder. His front right is turned out. The front left leans out. He had a drop thoracic sling. He has high heel, low heel syndrome. So both right front and back feet are low, both left are high. He was not able to canter right at all on a lead. Like I didn't even try to canter him under saddle at first, just on a lunge. As soon as you would ask him to lunge to the right, he would panic. He would pull with all his might and he'd yank me off my feet and off he'd go. Was not able to hold him at the beginning. He'd just panic. And it was, if I managed to hold him, he'd then start bucking. And I just look at him going, I can't write this. This is not going to happen. I'm not going to get on you like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he came with a bag of problems that I had no idea about. And I'd been used to difficult horses, but he took this to a next level due to his sensitivity. It was literally a lot of energy with him. As soon as my energy was tight, stressed, or in a hurry, he'd just lose it. At times I wouldn't even be able to catch him in the paddock. He'd be just like, "Nah, you have the wrong energy. I'm not doing this." He'd take off, and I'm like, okay. So, and then he must have learned somewhere along the line some really bad habits as well. So from what I gathered from the breeders, what happened is they had kept him stallion until he was 3, which explains his slight tendency to sometimes turn aggressive if he really has to. He's not really an aggressive horse, but if he really has to, he will stand his ground and start fighting. And apparently they went into a drought and they had to sell off horses, so they decided they'll castrate him and sell him off. So he was put to a trainer, broken in, started and put through a sale, and then he was apparently sold to someone that mustered him a few times around property, and then this guy apparently sold him to the lady that had him, that rode him twice, got backed off and then just left him. So he was already quite old by the time he came to me, but he had trauma. He would lock his jaw open in a halter and in a bridle. He'd in place and then tilt his head and then pull on me with all his might, including in the bit. Like I was like barely able to hold. Stop. That's it. When I first started getting, he just couldn't. He just had to keep walking and wait till he could mentally relax enough to let go and stand. So yeah, there was lots, like the list of issues we've had has been.
Oops, you're freezing a little bit here. Your connection is a little bit.
Should go
Fun.
ahead. Sorry, you froze for a second.
Yeah.
Go ahead and continue.
Sorry, yeah.
It's
So
Internet.
before we started What, Why, How last year, we had gotten to a point of where he was safe to ride. And vaguely and fast. As you can see in the first picture, we could get around an arena and be okay. Mainly with another horse itself. So I would literally take his companion into the arena with us to ride, to make sure, or have him within a distance where he could see him, because as soon as it was out of sight, there was no point even trying to train him. He was just so anxious and stressed. He wouldn't be able to concentrate on anything. So we started there, just kind of trying to be safe and relaxed and get around the arena. And then throughout the course, I guess we eventually got to the second picture somehow.
You did.
So I have been going. I have submitted a lot of videos in the hot seats, and I got a lot of feedback of Thomas for him. I do believe his balance is much better than what it was. He's building strength. I can actually see it in the paddock when he plays with his paddock mates, that he's actually performs different maneuvers than he had before. I have, like, his shoulders are starting to even out. The chiropractor has actually confirmed that his hips are better, staying in place better. His lumbar spine is stronger and maintaining better. We generally have less Pardon?
Yes, it's what happens when they get properly muscled.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yes.
The muscles
Yes.
can support the bones and tendons. Yes,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Good.
Yeah,
It's a,
absolutely.
it's a good validation of the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the
And I
beginning,
think,
you didn't
sorry?
have a right? You wrote in a bareback pad for a long time, like in the
I've written I've written him bareback for the last 3 years. I've literally just got a saddle to him. I've waited all year. So we had to do all of this bareback, which means I couldn't take the risk of him bucking me off. So we had to go slow at his pace. But because he's really hard to fit, a saddle too, because he's got a really short back. He's got a slightly dropped back behind the withers, but really wide lumbar spine. And then he's got the uneven shoulders. So it was like a mission in itself trying to find any saddle that would fit him. Everything would bridge or slip or so we finally have got something that works. So I just rode him bareback because in several pads to pad myself and him. Because we just couldn't find anything that would fit him enough. And I knew he was changing a lot too. His back was changing all the time. So I needed something that I could adjust myself whenever he goes to the next stage of building muscle or putting on weight, losing weight, that kind of stuff. So yeah, we did most of it bareback. And we spent most of the year in a walk. So it felt very tedious at times.
Which is amazing. And then you could trot and canter. You're doing some canter now?
Yeah, we've just started canter work, yes, which is very exciting.
With the canter issues you had before, that is amazing.
Yeah, the canter is pretty good. And if you didn't know anything about the horse, it looks pretty good. And yeah, with knowing the history, it's really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, well, what I've gained from the What Why How is like I knew how to relax him. I knew how to help him behaviorally and mentally and overcome the trauma. I'd done this before. But when it came to the physical posture building, especially a horse that needed that much rehab and has so many issues, there's a few conformational things as well as physical posture problems. I was at my wit's end of trying to figure out how to get a horse like this to lift its thoracic and to bring the front end up. He's big croup high too, so then you got a downhill horse and you're supposed to bring the front up and the long straight back legs under, and I just was like, I don't know what to do. Thomas, help. So I was super excited and happy to have found the course because it just gave me the details. Every little detail of this is when you do what, how, and we just started working and playing with it. I found that because I got so many more answers of, okay, well, this hasn't worked, let's try that. This hasn't worked, let's try that. It just reduced my frustration with him because it's so slow going with him due to the trauma, and I've got to make sure that mentally he's right before I ask him anything. Otherwise, it's just a mess anyway. And as soon as he gets tired or worried, he inverts. So his head comes up, back drops up, and that's it. And then we run around like, an average little pony again. So as soon as I overpressure him or ask for too much or something is out of his norm, he instantly inverts. So consistent, like over the year, he's doing it less and less. He's become calmer. He seems to be understanding the arena. He just really quite enjoys the patterns and the repetition of the patterns, and it's giving him confidence in itself. And he's now at a point of where he's really relaxed. I don't need any paddock mates anymore. He can focus in the arena. He can have breaks. There was a point of where I couldn't even turn him out for a week. He'd just come back in and would be at square one. But now I can actually, I gave him a 3-week break over Christmas because of other things. And I brought him back in. And to be fair, the first day he did buck on the lead, but then by ride number 3, he was back to his usual self.
Amazing.
And yeah, so he's actually at a point of where we did this in the last lesson with Thomas, where he's like, he's actually too slow. I'm like, what do you mean he's too slow? He's too relaxed. And it was really interesting because I was like, that's my next level. I've focused so much on getting him relaxed, getting him calm, getting him to understand that we've actually gone a little too far. And now it's time to bring that energy back up and infuse that more, and to learn to amp up that power without getting the tension, without him freaking out and going, oh my God, that's too much, I can't handle it. So
that's normal, that you start with an issue, you correct it, eventually you realize, okay, now we have the opposite issue. Like from hot and tense and too quick, now he's a little too relaxed and a little too slow. But that's a smaller issue, right? Because you could easily make him hot again, probably, right? It's not a problem with him. So you can just a little bit more energy, and then, and it's always like the pendulum going a little bit left and right, and then you try to make it a little smaller every time so that you eventually stay in the middle.
Yeah. What I just wanted to say is one of our goals always in the training is to, I always like to say, is to make the hot, anxious, rushy horse drivable. And to make the slow, sluggish horse that kind of grows roots, like Naomi's horse, to make that horse energized and energetic, so energetic that you have to have them. The horse needs to have them, so it's that you're bringing the horses at the extremes all kind of to a center point, through the training, and that's how the same work applied individually for different types of horses brings them all to the same point.
They end up being similar.
Yeah.
Actually, I was thinking that though, you should tell everybody a little bit about your background, because you have experience with traumatized horses,
right. I mean,
and rehab horses.
This wasn't. She came into this with other experience too, in working with nervous horses and doing horsemanship and work like this to help the horse. So you could talk a little bit about it, because it may be helpful for anybody listening too. Yeah. And you brought what you knew to the table. And you worked it with what you were learning from us. You made it all work together.
And that's what I find is a beautiful mix. So I don't call myself a dressage rider, which is quite funny. Purely probably because I started off when I was born in Germany, and I started riding dressage in Germany as a young child, as you do all throughout my teenage years. I got very formal training in dressage and jumping, but eventually fell in love with dressage. And I got the opportunity to ride a high-level trained Andalusian stallion in my mid-teens. But the German system back then was very much like, you're just never going to get it. You're not good enough. I was just yelled at in dressage lessons. It was basically, if I didn't get it, they just said it louder, and I'll be like, I don't understand. He's screaming at me, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying. Or like they'd be going, just think canter, think canter. I'm thinking canter, and just nothing would happen. So things like this, where I just got to a point where I'm like, I'm just
no explanation of how to do anything. Just do it.
No, that never worked for me either. When somebody said just think, it's like, yeah, I'm thinking, it's still really nothing happening. I know.
Thinking so hard, it's not cantering, I don't know what's going on. So I had many years of training like that, of where I got to a point of where I just started believing I'm not a dressage rider. I can't get it. I'm not good enough. I should just quit, really. And then when I left Germany to Australia, I got introduced to natural horsemanship, and I fell in love with that as well, because I finally got answers. I was allowed to ask, why is my horse doing this now? Very much like your course, really. It was just from a behavioral point of view of like, okay, why are they acting like this now? What's triggered it? How did it trigger it? So I started learning to question the behaviors rather than going, okay, well, that's just him. Until then I was like, oh, this stallion, he just freezes in a piaffe, and that's just what he does. Like, just wait, he'll get out of it and move on. But obviously, once I started understanding the behavior patterns behind it, I realized that, oh, hang on, he was just mentally really not right to be freezing in that, you know what I mean? And then he'd rear if you put a whip on him, but that's the training I had, it was just whether wait or fight him. So once I started getting introduced to the natural horsemanship in the very early days of natural horsemanship that I just started developing here in Australia, I got answers about behavior. And I loved it. I just loved understanding the horse. It just gave me answers. I'm like, oh, this is why they're doing this now, and how can I work with that instead of just trying to push them through it or force them or something.
Make him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you'll be right. Just move on. Like just put a whip on him. Yeah. So eventually I moved through a lot of different methods. My husband and I actually started training horses for a living. And our job was to take on the worst cases. So we would see a lot of rescued horses that people had rescued thinking they want to do the right thing by the horse, but this horse had been so severely traumatized, it was just dangerous for both the person and the horse. We spent many years starting young horses and or retraining anything that people had given up on. We got a lot of the horses that we were the last hope for, basically. So we did that, and throughout that I kept developing my horsemanship skills, but I always had this love for dressage. I was like so fascinated by it, but yet I was like, well, I'm not good enough to do that, so I'll keep focusing on learning behavior, and these kind of things. Then eventually went through body work because I started realizing, hang on, it's not all behavior. There's actually physical restrictions that can cause behaviors. Can be pain that can cause behaviors. So it's not all behavior either. It has to be a combination, and that's how I then ended at biomechanical dressage, like you're doing. I'm like, okay, well, if we can fuse the mental and emotional components of behavior with the correct dressage training, you get this molding of being able to work with the horse through trauma, but also physically developing them right. Because I have found that depending on what horsemanship styles you follow, a lot of them have no idea about biomechanics, and the horses end up wanting, well, I've got a rescue pony that's now 20, and he had to start learning with me, the poor thing. And I went through bridleless riding and all of those kind of things, which is great and fun. But he, to this day, because I never followed through with the biomechanics and the correct training, has got not a great posture. And while you can hop on him bridleless, he just didn't carry himself right because he wasn't born that way. And I wasn't fortunate enough to have a lot of really well-bred horses to work with. I usually had worked with, quite average horses, rescued horses, a lot of them trauma, a lot of them had needed rehab, some of them off the track, those kind of horses, they just come with a lot of problems. So we get the handful of really talented horses, and you go on and go, oh, this is so much easier. This horse just does it like this. You're like, what is happening? But you realize that, just how important, breeding and correct breeding, posture, conformation can be. But that doesn't mean you can't take a very average horse and at least improve them to the point of where they can mentally cope and physically work. Okay, they might never be spectacular dressage horses, but they can be healthy and well in different disciplines.
Yeah, I mean, if you can make them safe and fun to ride and happy and healthy and so on, that's sometimes a huge accomplishment.
And when they feel good, they look good.
What I find really impressive is that, you're a professional, you've done a lot of work.
You have a lot of experience.
Difficult horses, traumatized horses. But you were saying that Valentine takes it to a whole other level. That just goes to show you how much more difficulty is than people realize, or that I realized. That I thought it was a nice horse, nice pony. He's quiet, goes around.
I know you make it look easy in the videos. Really.
And that's the quality of the training there, right? So I would never have thought that he was that difficult.
And the rapport you have with him, that you've really taken the time to nurture the relationship and go at his pace. You said you needed to go, at a slower pace, but that is exactly it. That is what you have to do, And
it's hard to swallow when you're a bit like, oh, I just want to go get on and ride tomorrow. And it's taken me 3 years just to mentally calm him down enough to be able to do that. It took 2 years just to be able to ride him safely. And we went through phases of where I just accepted that he said no every time. I would approach him in the paddock and I'd stop and wait and just breathe. And then if he'd just look at me and walk away, I'd go, okay, that's no. And we went through a phase of 2 weeks of where every day he just went, no. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Is this horse ever going to turn around? And after that, because I respected his voice, he just kind of made the choice to come to me, and it just really changed our relationship. So there's many, many levels I've worked on with him. The other thing is breathing is extremely important with him. He taught me how to breathe deeply. and managing my own anxiety, make sure I am fully present and fully in the moment at every single stride. It doesn't look like, I always watch the videos and go, why can you not see the amount of work I'm doing? Because it's literally, I have to manage every single stride. Like every stride we're doing something, he's popped in there and he's popped out there and he's started rushing and he's slowing down. And I guess I'm just now onto it. At the same time, my aim is not to micromanage him. I want him to learn to have self-carriage, and I want him to learn to mentally be able to work with me and not just be driven around. For sure, you can get on and drive him around and, do this, but I actually want him to interact with me and work with me, because relationship is very important for me with my horses. And I want them to be partners, to work with me instead of just being forced into, here we go, there's another pattern to do. Which some of them, they give up and they do it. But, and he probably would, but yeah, I just don't like riding horses that way. So it makes it hard. It takes a bit longer, but we're not doing any fancy things yet, but hopefully one day.
I think you're going to go far, actually. Just doing it in the rate that he needs you to take him on, you're going to go. Yeah. It's a really inspiring, amazing story.
The little comment here, Susan Hinton-Smith says, "You are such an inspiration, Linda, and you have given me so much confidence with my horse, who has similar traits to Valentine. Listening to you tonight, I realize my horse is much less challenging than Valentine." No, that's good. I mean, these issues come up with a lot of horses. With some, it's worse. With some, it's better. Valentine may be a little extreme. But a lot of people have the same things that you describe, and then it's great to hear that how you approached it and you got through to it, and it took some time, and you kind of have to have faith in the process, I guess, and just stick to your intuition and these really basic, simple things sometimes, and it builds, and there's a cumulative effect, and eventually the horses come around, But this frame of 2 to 3 years, that's something I've experienced too with horses, that if they were really messed up, it's sometimes 3 years before they're normal in a way, where you can treat them like a normal horse, right? Like a normal.
Which can sound really daunting if you're on the beginning of that, but wow, it's not about actually where you get, it's everything you learn along the way, because I guarantee you this horse has made you a phenomenal rider and trainer. You were good, I'm sure, to begin with, but now you're really amazing, because he has taught you so much about yourself, about him, about training, about many things, many other things, I'm sure, that we don't even talk about here, that we haven't mentioned, because he has taught you so much.
I'm incredibly lucky to have him. I'm really, really lucky to have him, because while he had a lot of problems, I was really quite excited that he has the breeding there. So I do know that once we can work it out, he's actually quite talented. It's in there somewhere. And I think that's why I can see it now in the photos as well, because he does actually have it in there. So in that sense, we're lucky that he has that somewhere in there. And I would watch him in the paddock and go, if I could just ride that. I can just ride that,
Right? We all know that.
Like when I first started with him, and we started at the beginning of the course, I couldn't ride a straight line. As soon as I put a leg on him anywhere, he'd pop out a hip here, or a shoulder would go there, or he'd be sideways, and I'm like, oh my god, there's a straightforward movement, because he is very quite mobile. Like laterals come relatively easy to him once he's straightened and strengthened. But getting him to just stay in line was really hard, and not overreact. And like I said, I could barely put my leg on him. He'd be just all over the place. Worst case, he'd run off. He'd just take off. While now we've actually just started riding with a whip. Thomas was like, I think you need a whip. I'm like, you what?
Amazing, right?
I don't think I can carry a whip. He'll take off on me again. And I literally started. We just started with the whip, and I was just holding it. I didn't even have to touch him, and he just like, here we go, So he's just so sensitive.
You could take a short one, like these little jumping bats, and just hold it, and that probably is already enough, right? And then you can build from there. But what I was going to say is that you know, it's taken maybe 3 years to be able to ride him like a normal horse. And of course, during these 3 years, you're asking yourself every day, what am I doing wrong? You know, I've been working with him X number of months or years, and he's still not doing X, Y, Z, and I'm just a failure, and I'm just not good enough, and this is never going to happen, right? And then 3 years later, it's like, yeah, I can see now there was this process, and there was. It just took time, right? And I think that that's good for other people who are on year 1 or year 2 who are thinking, what the hell am I doing? I'm just completely hopeless, and this will never, you know, I will never be good enough to ride this horse. And then have somebody like you who did it. And it's like, yeah, it took 3 years, right? I'm just on year 1. Okay. You know, there's still hope. So for me,
I'm not doing paperwork
Stay
yet.
the course. Stay the course. Stay with the work.
Yeah.
Pays off. I was going to ask you.
Sorry, what really helped me in the course was the consistency of the modules being released. And I just made I just committed to, okay, I'm going to work my way through the modules. We might not be able to do all of it, but I'm going to read all of it. I'll watch everything. Then I choose which exercises we can do. I'll just give them a shot. Some of them were like, not going to happen. And others were like, oh yeah, actually, I didn't know we could do this. So the consistency of it, having new things to work on and working through, and then I would just force myself to show up for a hot seat, because when I started, I was terrified to show my riding. I thought I was horrible at it. It was embarrassing to see myself ride or have anyone watch me ride, because I just suck at it. I'm like, posture's terrible. He's running around with his head up in the air.
But you did it. You put the videos into the hot seat. You put the videos into the hot seat, and then what was the reaction? Did we say you're horrible? You shouldn't do this. You should.
No.
What happened?
No, it was so supportive. I think at first I started crying because I hadn't experienced a dressage world that was this supportive. Oh. I'd had so much baggage and self-doubt and lack of self-confidence that I was like, as soon as I enter the dressage world again, they're going to rip me apart, because I could see everything that was wrong with us. I'm like, this is going to be hard. I can't take it. So having just shown up, put my videos in, and then having a complete you two, your just amazing positive feedback, and very constructive, very like, give this a try, you know, no pressure. And then having the whole community going, oh my God, you know, you're on the right track, you're doing it, keep going, you're doing well. It was just such a game changer for me in my confidence and the self-doubt whenever I'm going, oh my God, here I am 3 years later, we're still walking. You know, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I even doing this? So just having that whole community and your support has just changed so much in my confidence to actually go, we'll get there. You know, we're actually on track. It might be taking us longer, but we'll eventually get there, and just seeing the progress. And then also because I forced myself to go and film regularly, to then be able to look back, because I have a terrible habit of just seeing the worst things. And then I just focus forward and going, well, we're still not doing this, we're still not doing that. You know, so then I forget where we were. And then the self-doubt comes in, and question was, why am I even doing this? How can it be that I can't get this, or why is he still not doing this? So just having, like I said, when I saw the photos, I was like literally surprising myself. I'm like, oh my God, that's actually quite good. There's actually progress there. I'm like, what? Because of my mental state, I tend to just enter this hole in my head phase of where I'm like, oh, it's just not good enough and we'll never get there kind of thing. So just having that as a comparison for myself to go, actually, no, we are getting somewhere, which can be, you just can lose track of it, especially when your process is over years instead of months or, you know, weeks, where you're like, oh yeah, I can see last week we weren't doing this and now we are. But if you're having like years of where you're slowly progressing and you're going, well, should I be doing this faster? Should I be getting further? And then just realizing, no, it's okay. It's okay where you're at, and just keep doing it.
I had no idea how traumatized you were, you know, when you started the course and you did the first hot seats. Yeah, no idea. It's amazing. Oh yeah, it's very brave of you then, after the experiences in Germany, to actually put a video
So
out there.
for those that are just coming into the course now and are nervous about submitting hot seats, what would you say to them?
Do it. Breathe. Click yes, and just submit it, and then don't take it off. Just wait your turn and shake and, you know, be really nervous and just do it. Because once you've done it the first time, you'll realize that there's going to be positive feedback, there's going to be support, and there's no harsh judgment at all. Quite the opposite. And then you feel more confident, and then it gets easier every time you submit something. That was my experience, I have to say.
Brilliant advice.
Yeah. I mean, I always try to find something helpful that people can do wherever they are at the moment,
Yeah.
you know. And I mean, I was so bad when I was young, people would laugh at me, you know, behind my back. So that's why I always see myself in every student, right? No matter where they are, you know, no matter how, you know, bad they are or how much of a beginner they are. I was like, oh, I was there. I remember.
I can relate.
I know. I got yelled at, you know, I felt hopeless. Teachers would basically give me the feeling that you'll never get anywhere, you know, it's like you're hopeless, give up, you know.
That's the German way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand. So
And I literally quit dressage. That's what I did. I went, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm terrible at it. I'll go to natural horsemanship instead. And then I went, oh, I'll do trick training, and I'll do liberty riding, and I'll do this and that. It just everything but dressage, because I'm like, I just can't get dressage. I'm just not good at it. So coming back to it in this environment has just been a complete game changer for me mentally, as well as physically for Valentine, because I've always had that love for it, and I always knew I wanted to come back for it. I remember when I had a good ride and we would do, you know, passage, piaffe, canter, flying lead changes. I'm like, this is heaven. So you get addicted, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Once you've felt it, you're like, not going to go back to it.
Yes,
I might never get it. I'm going to have to go back to it. But yeah, so it's been great. I can highly recommend it. That's all I can say. It's
So
amazing.
I want to ask you the same question I asked Naomi there at the end. What is the next challenge, the next thing you're wanting to learn? What's your goal for this year? Something. What are you wanting to learn, or what are you focusing on right now or next?
For this year, I want to canter. I'm up to we're going to start cantering. That's it. That's my plan for this year. My end goal and dream is to teach them to piaffe.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we ever will, but that's okay. But I just would love to ride a piaffe and passage one day. But if we can canter, we're doing well.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already cantering him.
Yeah, you are cantering.
Looking quite good.
Yeah.
And just about point you made about you know, walking him for years and years shows you the value of the walk.
Yeah.
You know, people often underestimate the value of the walk. And there's an anecdote of a French master, I think maybe Duplessis or so, from the 18th century, who made a bet with somebody that he could train a horse in the walk for, I don't know, X number of years, and then he would be able to do all the movements, walk, trot, canter, everything, without ever actually practicing them at the trot and the canter. And according to the anecdote, he won the bet, right? And that's a little bit what you've done, right? You've trained your horse in the walk a long time, and now he can canter. And you didn't make the canter better by cantering a lot, but you made him better by balancing him, suppling him. Yeah. And that, I think that's encouraging, because a lot of people are, you know, have horses that are injured, that are whatever, you know, handicapped in some way or traumatized and rehabbing, and you know, all they can do is really walk, or the weather is bad and it's icy and it's muddy and it's whatever, you know, so all they can do is walk. But you know, with Valentine, you can show how much you can do at the walk. You know, like, you don't have to give up. It's like, oh well, all I can do is walk, so I might as well not even do anything, right? I might as well give up. But no, you can do a lot.
And that was something I learned from him throughout this course, because I'd been taught, you know, you improve the trot by trotting and you improve the canter by cantering. And I knew we could walk, trot, and canter, but it was this literally on a loose. My own posture was very much, I'd gone from when I originally learned, I had a really stiff dressage seat to drive a lot. And then I went from that to like, well, just going to have to hang on to every horse that shies, bucks, jumps, you know, kind of just
let's look at the picture. Yeah, look at yeah.
So then I went from like, okay, now we have a like potato sack seat, and you know, we've got to start bringing some positive tension in it without going back to like, right, here we go, we're driving, because then I attempt to drive him down, and he's already like so he just drops quite quickly out under me. So to actually learn to have that positive tension, to have that lift in my own seat, to kind of think about bringing him up. And these were all concepts I kind of knew, but I never actually figured out how to do them. And that's definitely something I've learned in the course with the Feldenkrais as well. And just the, you know, like the feedback and going, yep, that looks better. That's not, you know, like, you know, you can maybe work on this or that. It's really changed. And this is, I'm starting to feel to lift his front feet. I mean, we get moments like this. It's not consistently like this is a really good shot, to be honest. But at least we get moments like this in a trot. And like I said, we started on the left in a walk like this for about a half a year before I even started trotting him. And again, the end of year assessment was really a great thing for me, because I was like, right, we've done so much, we're going to do this assessment, and then it was mandatory to trot. I'm like, damn it, we haven't trotted. 2 weeks to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, we
trot.
We didn't mention this. You actually did the course all at the walk and didn't trot until the end of the course because you had to submit for the assessments. And it shows the value of all of that work you did. Yeah, because it was brilliant. It was beautiful. You did a great
job. And he was ready for it. I hadn't realized he was ready for it, and he was ready to start trotting, and pushing that little bit more made us trot like this. So I was really surprised.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, sometimes the danger is that we get stuck in a mindset of this horse is like this, right? The way he was in the beginning. And then you work with him and he progresses, but in your mind, he's still the way he was in the beginning, right? And then you don't realize that, oh, we could actually trot and canter. So then if we make you trot, that can be good. It's like, oh yeah, you can do it. So. Yeah.
Of course, you did it in a compassionate, empathetic way with him, because that is your way with him. You would have never just gone, okay, buddy, we're trotting now. You know, you wouldn't have done that. You know, you did it in a way that was suitable for me. But beautiful job. Anyway, thank you. You have to read the comments. Okay.
Naomi says, right, Linda, we're gonna need an Aussie support group this year to meet regularly and celebrate our challenges and conquests with wine.
Yes. Can I come? Yes.
At a time that works fast, not like in the middle of the night.
I know. I'm so sorry. I know.
Good. We're here for it anytime.
Awesome.
Maria Bloman, who's also one of our regulars, who's also a diehard.
What my alumni,
Yeah, she says she lives in Ireland. She says, I have to confess to being a hot seat addict. I'm a jumper and not good at dressage at all, but the nice and encouraging feedback is inspiring, and it definitely helps both my horses and I to improve. Highly recommend to be brave and submit. Yeah, Maria is in every single hot seat, and her horses have improved so much. Really, a lot.
I'm just taking a little screenshot of her comment because it's good. Nice comment. Anyway, we're gonna move on to one of the others, but I'm going to demote you from panelist.
Go back to it now.
No, don't go through and read, because there were a bunch of really nice comments too in here. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Thank you
Linda.
For great story.
Yeah, it's great.
Always, it gets me inspired, you know. It's like,
totally.
Oh my God, right.
You know, it shows you that the dressage is not just for the fancy warm bloods.
Yeah.
But it's going to make every horse better, right? If you use it right. It's physiotherapy, makes every horse better at their day job, you know, no matter what discipline you ride. And it's always good to see stories like the underdog, you know, the horse was discarded because he bucked his owner off, and you took him in, and then you struggled through all these, you know, adversities, and now he's fun to ride, right? And that's huge, right? Just making a horse like that just fun and safe to ride. That's like
That's a huge success.
it's a bigger success than
Yes.
taking a fancy Warbler to the Olympic Games, really. You know, if you think about
Or
it.
to FEI, let's say,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
not to the Olympic Games, because that's a whole other level, you know, challenges. But to FEI, a talented horse to FEI, that takes as much skill, patience, perseverance, talent, everything, and knowledge as it took you to get this far with him. So well done.
Yeah,
Really, really well
absolutely,
done.
yeah.
And I just want to say, like, with this course, it works well if you're coming from a natural horsemanship background or kind of horsemanship. I felt there was a lot of correlation between what you two do in the dressage world, as well as where I came from a behavioral point of view. So it really does meld quite nicely. So if you're not a pure dressage rider like me, it's still such a beneficial course. It really does work on very similar concepts, even if you're not purely dressage. And or if you're a beginner and you know, like if you have difficult horse or not a really fancy, well-bred one that's just naturally talented and you're just riding in your backyard arena, it's still very, very suitable for anyone, really.
Great.
That's
Thank
great.
you
Thank
for
you.
adding that.
Yeah.
Answers questions for some people, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Let's see, I have to change you to an attendee. Bye. So we're down to Ricky and Jen. Ricky is next. Ricky, I'm going to share the screen again and share your photos. And you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I did.
Hello there. So here's Ricky from the Netherlands with Vera. Vera is a Lipizzaner mare. And Ricky you do ride, but you do the majority of the course at the long reining. Is that correct?
Well, not in the beginning, but the last challenge I did only the first of these two last challenges I did in long reining. But yeah, we started, I think, really practicing in the courses about 2 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, so we have some before and after pictures. This is work at the long rein in 2021 on the left side of the screen. And on the right side of the screen, it's this year, 2023, or last year, 2023, but you know, recently. And so that we can see the huge contrast in the communication, the way of going, your skills and ability. Do you want to talk a little bit about these photos? I have the other photos you posted too, and we can talk about those two separately. But first, these, do you want to talk a little bit about where things
the main thing, well, having a Baroque horse and a Lipizzaner, it's not a guarantee for easy work. It's the same as Naomi said. You really have to do the work. Oh my God. And she is a mare, so she has an opinion.
Lipizzaner mares do. They're known for having opinions.
I know now. But yes, the main thing I have been working on, I guess, is her to wait for me and to be listening and not pointing out her ears. Okay, I know, I hear, because as you know, I was deaf almost deaf when I started with the course, and I'm so grateful to have those subtitles, because really you are one of the few who have those in courses and live and videos and recordings, and it's really, really. And it's also the thing about why I have been working so much on can my horse wait for me and not lower her back and her head up and what is going on in the environment, because she was my ears. She was telling me in her body what was happening outside.
Interesting.
I think I can start when I first came into what, why, how, I did the Feldenkrais challenge first in 2020. And that brought me more back to my body. And to 2020, I just had finished my rehab from learning again to hear with my cochlear implant. And those years I had been, from 2015 to 2020, I have been riding, but my mare was telling me where the sound came from, what was happening behind me, if there was any sound, if there was danger, because I had also the handicap of being deaf. Sound came immediately, because the little bit that I did hear, it was like electric fence, that you take the electric fence, sound instantly is there.
Okay.
And you have no time that you hear it coming. So I was on the top of my alertness. And in fact, a very fearful person for my horse, because so much nerve alertness in a body is not relaxed. And that, because we like to go out trail riding and so on and so on, she always warned me when there was sound, when there was coming a car from behind, or when there was anything going on. It's quite a similar thing as Naomi was talking about.
Yeah.
Only the other way around. I hear with my eyes.
Yes.
And she sees with her ears.
That's so interesting.
It is so interesting.
But all the thing in common we have, it's all about what I call intuitive communication with your horse.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been an amazing journey to get her relaxed. And that's what you see in those before and after pictures, because it was not only relaxation in nerves and being calm, but also going back from a hollow back to other body posture, not only for her, but because I was sitting like this, hearing, also sitting like that on my horse. Like Naomi said, I needed to, the same thing, sitting back in the saddle. Yeah, then I can't hear.
That's so true. That's so true. It's something I didn't think about.
Yeah,
That's why it's so interesting to have this conversation. Unfortunately, I don't have any photos of you riding so that we can, put that visually to,
Yeah, but that is a main issue thing. And still, at some points it is. When I remember my body, when I need to relax, okay, I need to go.
Yeah.
And upright to say, but yes, that's one thing. Is always heads up with my horse, so I had to get her around and more over the back and through the back and so on. That was one of the two pictures, and the other thing in her and my crookedness, it was about the shoulders, and always about the right shoulder. The
bottom
where the bend is so difficult for her right shoulder at the moment. Hollow left, stiff right, and it's my difficult side as well. So as we are such body language couple, I can say, it's difficult because she always mirrors me. And what another thing, when you have a talk about opinionate, a mare with an opinion, I really had to be learning about how to be clear, but not clear in a hard way, or clear in an angry way, or clear in a stubborn way, or clear in a now you do it way, but clear in a soft feeling way.
And I always feel like with the mares, if you can appeal to them with that, but also be absolutely logical about the body, that really helps, because then there's no opinions. It's like, it makes absolute sense to them, and it's therefore then their idea. When you work with the biomechanics with any horse, but with the mares, especially the mares, they can be a little you know, it can make a big difference for them, because then what you're wanting them to do becomes almost their idea.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
integral to working with a mayor with strong opinions. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what happens from, I think about, well, I'm 2000, a few years before I found you guys, I got an on-site trainer again who was allowed to come at our stables, because a lot of stables are not allowed to have specific trainers or your own trainer. But this was possible here now, and he was also the breeder of my mare, and a classical trainer, and understanding what it was about. But having once in a while a lesson is I started again around horses around, well, say about 12, 15 years ago. I had a little pony when I was a teenager, but in between I did not ride or do anything with horses. So I had to come. You can think you know something, but you don't know what you don't know. And my trainer can tell me a lot in 45 minutes, but not as much as you can read. And the same thing about trying to get to understand what is going on. You're going to search for answers, because we also have a rehab history. I can tell about that later, but it's if you keep getting the same answers and you don't know how to change, because it does not feel okay, because it's constrained or not supple, then you're going to look for answers. And once in a while, a lesson is not okay, it's not enough. And at that moment, I could not physically, my body could not cope for anything more, because it was too fatigued. I got too tired of it. So you're going to look for other ways. And yeah, that's why when I found I need to get my body in a better shape, otherwise I can't help my horse. And then we started the Feldenkrais challenge. And from there on, we rolled into the what, why, how. And I'm so glad, because, well, as a teenager, you go with your pony once a week to a pony club, and then you ride along all in a circle, and that's it. And I did not know anything. I've been thinking I knew a lot, but I did not know anything. And I know less now, perhaps, but once you learn more, you think you know less.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So yeah, so since what, why, how, I have the theoretical background, and it's my library, it's the encyclopedia we have now, and it's somehow easy to, in the what, why, how, easy to search for what you need, where you are, where you want to find something, and yeah, that's find the right blend of exercises. That was one of the quotes I got from you, because that's I think what you need. And yeah, why the long reining? Because that's not so common. And I was so happy that my on-site trainer does the long reining too. That he's only one of the 4 or 5 people in the Netherlands, and that's a very, very nice thing to have such a guy. And then I found you, and I found your book, and it came together. And I said to him, well, do you want to follow me in my lessons with Thomas? And yeah, he said, well, that's not a problem at all. So let's see. And what do we find out? And I was so happy for that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Beautiful. I love that you were able to bring it together and work with your at-home trainer and with us, what we teach you, and bring it all together and make it work together.
Yeah, that's really the best of both worlds. If you have a trainer at home and who's compatible, and then the online courses that can give you all the background ground and your exercises. That's really
Yeah. And the long reining, yeah, it started when my horse had a severe incident, stable incident, and had, well, the first vet said, I think you better put her down.
wow.
Because her back and her SE joint were really, no, it was not broken, but nothing was straight anymore, and it was all crooked and all damaged. And I found another vet who guided me through the healing process with her and gave me things to do, just, well, 5 minutes walk. And then you have to figure out a 7-8-year-old little mare who mentally could not cope with that. So I had to try and find something to get her mentally busy. And that's how I try to go and figure out, can I do something on the long reins? Because walking next to her, work in hand, somehow she still doesn't like it. And walking more behind, having her proud and can be, and look what I'm doing, and you can see what I'm doing, and more space to move around as well. Got her happy. And that's how we just try, like Thomas always said, just experiment. And I did not know anything about it. I just tried to figure out how can I walk behind and let her go straight. And that was the most difficult thing in the world.
It is. When I started long reining, I was tripping over my own feet and getting the horse to turn away from the wall. Everything was so difficult. Yeah. So it's fun though. It's really addictive. And it's interesting that Vera likes the long reining more than the work in hand. I guess when you're working in hand, you're closer to the head, so maybe it's more pressure for the horse, or they perceive it as more pressure. When you're a little bit back, then it's a little bit more relaxed for them, maybe, especially if you walk in the middle behind with a little bit of a distance. Some horses really like it when you're right there on the croup and you're touching them and, you're right there with them. And other horses, I find they like it if you're like a meter behind them in the middle and very, very light contact, and that's sort of on their own, and you're just giving little suggestions, and then they relax, and then they go much better, actually. So
for Vera, it's really about pressure. It's when I cannot find a good position for myself and her somehow. I better can do it with liberty work, or just in the lead rope on a halter, then it's okay. And then I can ask her for anything. But as soon as I have those 2 reins in the work in hand, it gets harder. And I can persuade her or get her mindset if I want to. But we want to have fun too. Huh? That's so, and we both like the long reining, so I can learn anything from there. So in my riding, it sometimes is harder. So I go back to the long reining and puzzle first over there, and then go back to the riding with the same feeling, and then it gets easier there.
Yeah, I did that too in the past. That like if I got stuck in the saddle, I would long rein the horse, because then I can see what's happening, right? I can see where the hind legs are moving, how they're moving, where the front legs are, how energy and movement gets transmitted from the hind legs to the spine, to the front legs, to the neck, to the paw, to the to the reins, and so on. Or you can see where it breaks down, and you can see where there's a leak where the horse overbends, and then they push out through a shoulder or something like that. And I always found that the long reining really helped my riding, it helped my understanding, and it helped my coordination of the aids, because when you're long reining, you don't have to worry about sitting the trot and not bouncing around. You don't have to worry about your seat. You can really focus on aids, right, and coordination of the aids. And
Well, that's all you have.
yeah. So I always found that helpful. I always thought that long reining made me a better rider, actually. I really benefited from that. And I always found that the horses appreciate the long reining, because I'm sweating more than they are. You know, I'm working at least as hard as they are because, you know, if they're trotting and I have to keep up, or if they're cantering, I'm working at least as hard as they. And I always felt that the horses sort of respected that and they liked that. And yeah, like you said, it's maybe long reining is less pressure, at least less perceived pressure for the horse than when you're right there by the head and the shoulder and doing work in hand.
Yeah.
With a long rein, you're a little bit farther back, and you can vary the distance. You can fall back even more if you feel like, if I'm right by the croup, the horse still feels pressured, you know, go back a meter. And if they're still pressured, go back another meter and another meter. Then eventually you're far away enough that the horse feels okay.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
they all
I'm
have
happy.
their preferences, and they all
Right,
have
yeah,
their
absolutely.
comfort zone, what they're comfortable, how they're comfortable working, or the type of work they're comfortable with. And it's our job to find what that is and find the best way to help them in the situations they're uncomfortable, but also to, you know, collaborate with them and work with them in the situations that they like a lot, and use that, work with them on that. So
Yeah.
that's our job. Is
Yeah, and it's
the writers.
also about learning to listen to them.
Yes.
Listening is such a major thing in my environment, of course, but yeah, to fine tune in the listening, that's the
Yeah.
main thing, I think. But it's also about understanding, because that was the same thing when I got deaf. I got such a great therapist who said, well, if you don't understand what's going on with you, how can you explain, and how can other people understand? And that's the same what you guys teach. If I don't understand, how can my horse know?
That's
And if I don't have it in my body, my horse doesn't understand if I can't give clear signals. And
this is at the core of everything, of understanding how to work with your body, understanding how to work with your thoughts and mental processes, and learning how to understand working with the horse.
Yeah.
That's at the core right there. You said it.
The what, the why, and the how. It's and how to get them together, because I can theoretically know what to do it is something totally different. And then not only what to do, but how to do it, and why to do it, and when to do it. And it has been such a process all those years already, and it's only getting deeper and finer and better and more beautiful and
better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lifelong. It never ends. You know, you always discover more. You know, that's the nice thing. You know, every thing you discover, there are more questions. You know, everything you discover, you realize, oh, there's a lot more there. I always feel like it's like, I don't know, if you're in a palace, you go into a room, you know, and then you go through the room and look at it, and then you open another door, and then there's like a whole other palace behind that with lots of more rooms, and it's like
there's more to discover.
it becomes bigger, and the world becomes bigger, and there's just more information. It's really interesting. And the long reining always, I felt, gave me a whole different perspective. That gave me information that I could never have found just by riding. Because it's you're right there, you're on the ground. When you see the horse, you see the croup, you see the rib cage, you see the neck, and it gives you a picture that may explain what you're feeling when you're sitting on the horse. Because when you're sitting on the horse, you don't see the hind legs, you just feel something, hopefully.
It's true.
You know, and then the long rein, you know, it's like, oh, that's what it looks like. This is what I'm feeling. And now, okay, now I get it. Now I know what's going wrong here.
Or you can use it to troubleshoot too, right?
You can,
you know, you can do something that you have trouble with under saddle, and when it happens at the long rein, you can see what's happening. That's what's happening. It helps. It's an additional tool that can be really, really helpful, and it's nice when the horse likes it, when they enjoy it.
And it's also about now, after again some years, oh my God, she's getting so much more demanding. It's what a year ago was okay, it's not now anymore. She said, I don't do it because something, and then now I'm talking a little bit in my writing, what I meet there now, she does not want to do the right lead canter anymore because the issue of the right shoulder. So we're figuring it out to get it again in long reining first. And there you see again, it is a different kind of crookedness again. It's the last cornerstone where the bend is not okay yet, totally, to get all the beautiful things again going. And she said, no, I don't do it in riding if you don't do it correctly. If I'm not enough on the hind legs, if I'm not having the correct bend on the shoulder, and then I don't go to the right lead canter. Okay, now, so this is the next puzzle, and it needs to be solved first. And well, we're working on it in long rein, and we're getting there. We're getting there. So that's how it works.
That's it.
It's partially Lipizan thing. It's partially
That's why I was laughing, because
it's partially a trained
is.
horse thing. It's as you train the horse, and it's a funny thing. We train the horse by raising our expectations. Like, what was good enough 6 months ago is not good enough now. Come on, horse, you can do better. You need to do this. And then they turn it around on us. And then they're saying, well, that's not good enough. You know better. You can ride better than that.
You can sit better than that. They do.
Been there,
Well,
done
and that is how she challenged me all those years. In first, like relaxing in riding, that I could trust her on hearing everything for me. And then we had to turn it around. So now I could say, now you have to listen to me because I know some things you need to listen to. And it's going back and forth like that. And it's such an amazing, beautiful journey.
I know that's a funny thing, but we train the horses and the horses train us, right?
They're
And I
very-
found that the Lipizans, they're particular that way. They're characters and they're super intelligent, and it's like they have expectations of us, and if we don't meet their expectations, they just won't do it, right? And like I mean, they can get snobby, really. If you don't meet their expectations, then it's like, no, that's not right. And my old stallion, the first Lipizan stallion I trained, when I rode them mostly myself, and here and there we would use them with a student, but very, very rarely. And he would get so insulted if they weren't up to his standards. That's like, I didn't go to college for this. It's like PhD having to teach like first graders in school. It's like, that's not what I got my degree for. It's like, and then I always had to laugh. And I find that's a Lipizan trait. They know who they are. They're very self-confident. They can get a little snobby, and they have expectations of the riders. And if you don't meet them, then they may say, "Oh, well, you're not worth my time."
Yeah.
So that's so funny.
I didn't know, because the fun story is how we met was that I knew I wanted to learn classical riding, and I knew I wanted a baroque horse, but I thought a Frisian. And then we fell in love instantly when she touched me. It was love at first sight, and it never changed. And she chose me, I chose her, and from there on we go. But I did not know anything about Lipizan, so I have learned a lot. And it's a beautiful breed, but yeah.
Yeah, they're great. They're not easy necessarily, but they're really special horses. And we had, when we were living in the US, we had a student who was looking for a horse to buy, and she had some idea of what she wanted, and then we took her out to a herd, and then there was one mare. I think she wanted a gelding or something, or I can't remember
Well,
now.
she wanted a young horse at least, and preferably a gelding, but she was willing to look at a mare, but she wanted something no older than 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there was a mare who just came and said, "You're mine." And
Would not leave her alone.
yeah, she stood next to her and cuddled her, and she would chase every other horse away. Any horse that came, she would bite, she would kick, she would just chase him away. And I well, okay, that's it. You know, was
The horse chose her.
almost the opposite of what she was looking for, but obviously,
It was
know.
an older broodmare, unbroke.
Okay.
Exactly not what she wanted.
Yeah.
But the horse chose her.
Same happened to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah,
I
Lippert
came
was
to the
them.
fence, and all the other horses were sent away, and it was.
Isn't that cute?
No.
Yeah,
You're
it
yeah.
And Lippertson
was meant to be, they say, but yeah.
mares especially. Mares can be tricky. The stallions and geldings are a little easier. The mares are very particular. They're high maintenance. They know what they want, and they're very particular. And yeah. So
Yeah. And those of us that have
so
worked with on mares love them for that. We love them. Yeah.
That's true. But now you understand as well why the Feldenkrais has helped me so much, because my body was so stiff and so tense, and so of all those years of also rehab, not only for me but the same. We went through a rehab process, both of us, the horse and I, and relaxation was a big theme, but relaxation and relaxation, what a difference between those two. If you know what Feldenkrais is, that's such a other thing. And that was, well, it's now about soften, relax, do less, but it's a total different meaning than it was 3-4 years ago. So
it's the habit with the Feldenkrais. You're always super active, and you're really doing it intensely, and it really helps.
Which is kind of an oxymoron, doing Feldenkrais intensely, because there's nothing intense really about Feldenkrais. It's very extremely gentle.
Yeah, no, but it's
supportive.
It's great that it helps so much.
Observing through feeling and experiment with movement. It's the same as riding, but my body needs to do the same kind of bends as my horses.
That's it. And Francis Seisemil says this is the better way to be softer and less force. And that goes for our bodies and also with the horses.
Yeah, that's the two-way. And that's how I started. When I bought her, I wanted to learn to dance with my horse. Well, so we're getting there.
And that's why we have Feldenkrais components in every course, because by improving our own body awareness, we're able to do more with less. So we can ride with smaller aids and finer aids, and communicate more effectively with a horse. And it's hugely popular because of that. It started with one course. Catherine contacted us and said, "Hey, what you're doing sounds familiar." It's sort of what I do.
Maybe we could collaborate. And I said, let's try it. Let's do it. And it just worked. It blossomed. Now we've included her in every course.
Every single course. Because it's so valuable.
It's great stuff.
It's
so of course we focus a little bit more on the horse, maybe horse gymnastics, but there's also the rider side of the coin, right?
We address the rider's seat and aids in other ways, but this is, as you know, I'm just talking to anybody watching who doesn't know. Feldenkrais enables you to do exercises off the horse that you can then do on the horse too, but exercises off the horse that help you improve your suppleness, body awareness, balance, coordination, all of these things. Fine motor control, many things that all help you in your riding. It's amazing.
And it's not only physical, but also mentally.
That's exactly it. That's what we were talking about in the riding and the flow training the other day. How, at least for me, Feldenkrais helps me physically, but more than anything, it brings me back into my body.
I was just going to say that.
Have all these thoughts everywhere. It centers me and grounds me, calms me.
If somebody has a job that's very much, focused on the brain and being in your head,
cerebral,
then Feldenkrais would be a good thing to do before you go to the horse. To connect you to your body, connect you to the ground.
Because the horses appreciate that. They don't like it when we're scattered, when we're all over the place, when we're really grounded. They really appreciate that. And this helps you to get there. Ricky, Same question I've been asking everybody else. What is the next thing for you? What are you working on? What is your, it could be a goal for this year. What are you working on? What are you fascinated with? What are you exploring? Just something that you're wanting to learn now.
Yeah. Yeah, first we have to solve that right shoulder, that the bend is okay. And that, yeah, she really can sink into it and move from there. And we have found it in our last lesson. So I now know the feel over there. So I now have to try and see if I can find it in walk, trot, in riding, and in long reining. That's the first thing. And yeah, from there on, we go on with canter, because that was where we were before these issues in my body and her body last year showed up. And we had help with that. So from an osteopath, and for myself and for her. So that's going in a good direction. Well, and yeah, as she is a male with an opinion, she decided that it's time to do more on cantering on the long rein, but as well Levade, or in Liberty work, she started to jump up in the air 1-2 times. So I don't know where we are going. The sky is the limit with this horse.
Literally the sky is the limit.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's sometimes in Liberty I say, okay, you can go there, but no, she needs to be stronger first, more stronger in her hind, and from there on we will see. But I like to progress in my riding as well. So it's exciting journey. It doesn't matter what it brings. It's every day is a nice day. And well, as I wrote one day, my quote is hearing is a gift, understanding is an art. But that's what's not only about when you're deaf and getting to learn again, but it's also about horse riding.
That's a good one.
Horses. Yeah.
That's really good. But hearing is a gift and understanding
is an art.
That's a really good one. Wow. I like that. I like that. Yeah, it's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a good note to end it on. Really quick though, I just did want to share the other photo that you had, photos you had included. We'll just do it really, really fast here. This is again the before picture, and then after, showing how you're able to collect her and let her go forward more, and changing also the frame very much. So she's much more pliable and resilient. Instead of just kind of stuck in one posture, she can change her posture, which is one of the goals that we're always trying to achieve in the training. So job well done. Thank you, Ricky.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And so I'm going to do the same that I did to the others. I'm going to demote you. Thank you so much. And let's see, you're back to an attendee, and we are down to Jen. Jen, thank you for waiting. You had to wait here with your dogs barking and all sorts of things happening. Thank you for your patience.
No worries.
So what's the temperature?
Yeah.
Okay, so technically ambient temperature, we're -18, which is super.
Oh, it's
Yeah, totally.
So Jen lives in Edmonton, Canada.
It's crazy here.
Cold. It's crazy cold there.
Yeah, what is your record? Like -50 or something like that? Or -40?
Ready for this? It's a good thing y'all are sitting down. -64.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
So with the wind, it made it to -64, and I had to go out and do morning chores in that. It was insane. I had like my eyeballs showing, and I got frost so much on them I was wiping it off and felt like I was crying and couldn't stop. Anyway, it was crazy. We survived. We only had one horse injury, which was really weird. Won't even go into that, but she's fine now, and it's a broodmare, so it's all good. We had a senior mini, and our miniature donkey had to be back inside even last night. because it got to -40 again last night. But we're on the upswing now.
Yeah, wave, like you said. Wow.
So how do the horses do outside in that temperature?
Okay, so I'm not going to get into the no blanketing thing, but depending on the animal, their condition, their environment in which they reside, etc., we have anything from horses that are blanketed to 400 or 500 grams to horses that are absolutely naked and fine. So ultimately, it depends on the individual animal. I've got some pens that are getting extra free feed, others that are still on netted hay.
Wow.
So yeah, it's insane. But water is key. Water and making sure that they're intaking water and moving around is absolutely key.
Yeah, I mean, over the years we had students from Canada and Alaska, or Yukon territories and stuff. And they said, well, you just need a wall to block the wind, and then give them enough hay, and then they don't need a blanket, and they're fine. It's like, I can't even imagine. I was like, how do they not freeze to death? How do they survive in that? I don't, it's like, I think -25 was the coldest I've ever experienced. So I can't even imagine what it's like to be in -40, 50, 60. It's like, I think I would go outside and I'd be an icicle, and that's it. I'm dead. I don't know.
It sure felt like that some mornings, let me tell you. I was always like, I would bring the quad into the indoor arena, and so we keep it at about 10 degrees there, and I'd start it and open the door to like go out of the barn in the arena, and as soon as I opened the door and the rush of cold air would come, the quad would be like, I don't know if I want to work. I don't know if I can do this.
No.
I'm like, keep going. We got to feed horses.
Whoa.
I know, and all the oil must get really viscous,
Oh,
right?
it gets sluggish. The whole thing gets sluggish. Even like the throttle, because it's a thumb throttle, it's like you only got to about 7 kilometers an hour, because that's as far as you could depress it because of all the resistance in the lines. It's a whole nother ball of wax living up here when it gets like this. Like, it hasn't done this in like decades or something like that. I forget. So this has definitely been extreme. In fact, when we first started the meeting here, it actually finally released the extreme cold warning in our area.
Oh, wow.
So bonus.
Spring is here. Maybe not.
I did a couple of clinics in Edmonton, like in 2009. And one was in the summer, it was like 30 degrees plus. One was in December, it was like -25, and the arena was heated to like +10, +15, which was weird. And then they would open the gate to the outside to drag the arena, and it was foggy immediately.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. It's like such a weird thing, this contrast. Like, it's so super cold outside, and then it's balmy inside, and you have to take your jacket off. It's disorienting.
Yeah.
But
it is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your story, Jen. So we have already introduced some of the story that Jen actually operates an entire facility. She owns and operates a facility in Edmonton, Canada. And she teaches, and you can put that away. You can answer it later. Yeah. It's a question that came up. And so that's a lot of what you have to face. You run a whole facility, and people always think, oh, that's my dream to have a facility. But how often do you actually get to ride your own horse when you own your own place and you do lessons?
Okay, well, and so you have to add to that we also run a therapy program, and we've currently got a really big bid in, and everyone cross everything that it goes through, because it would be absolutely phenomenal if it goes through. But that would be for the therapy part. But so it really depends on what's going on. So in this cold snap, no one's riding.
Oh,
right?
Of course not. Yeah.
And it's just not possible. But I ride on average 4 times a week my horses.
That's really good.
That's good.
That's really good.
You're doing good.
Yeah. So now that doesn't mean it's the same horse, because I own a few. And then I have client horses that I ride a handful of times a week as well. And then, of course, lessons. And sometimes lessons, as you know, Thomas, I'm sure, and Shana, that you just end up, let me just show you on your pony that you can do this.
Yeah.
So sometimes you end up riding a client's horse without having that planned or slotted in.
Yeah.
But when I originally was working with Zan, literally, and of course, being who he is, I was riding him 7 days a week, and we actually made it past the 365 days of riding 7 days a week.
Wow.
So, but he required that, right? Now, it really depends on what you're doing and how you're doing stuff. So he's a story and a half right now, especially.
Yeah, we could go a little bit into that because of course we've been helping you some with some of the issues that have come up. But since you started talking about him, I thought, well, let's pop him up on the screen so people have a picture to put to the name. So he is an Andalusian stallion, yes, a PRE. Yes. How old is he now? 6?
He's 6, yeah.
So he's a young one still. And yeah, so over here we have the before pictures. And these are pictures when he was newly started under saddle, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like he's a rehab project. He was just a young stallion just starting to feel his Wheaties.
Yes.
Yes, which the Wheaties came in this year.
Oh my gosh, totally.
Which is one of the adversities that I wanted to talk about because this isn't always easy, right? And you are a very busy woman. You run this facility. I didn't mention that you are a mom to a bunch of kids. And, you have a lot on your plate, yet you persevere. You keep at it. And it's just that. It's the bit by bit by bit by bit by bit that adds up and makes a difference. So here we have the before picture showing him as a young, cute little guy. And he's still young over here. The pictures on the far right are the pictures during your assessment this year, your assessment videos that you turned in. These were screenshots from those. And then this is a much more recent picture, the snow picture. Yes.
Actually, that was last winter.
Oh, it was. Wow. Okay, I thought this was much more recent. Just wow, look at him
He looks
go.
good, I know.
He looks amazing.
Well, and that was during our stint of everyday riding. So we were doing the everyday riding until we encountered, and I believe it was September 22nd, 2023, was our encounter. We had done a lovely trail ride. The wind picked up. He got a little silly. We went back into the arena. I went to ride him, and he reared for the first time.
Wow.
And then I was like, the wind, we've ridden trail rides. We've done all sorts of stuff with wind, gale force winds, because we're on a lake. So you get like this, well, maybe not gale force, but they're crazy strong winds, right?
Yeah.
And we went into the arena. I'm like, you know what? Let's just do some shoulder in, haunches in, some circles, some walk, some trot, just so that, we're on the same page, ending on a good note, something familiar, something that we're both capable and competent of doing. And then, I'll put you back out. And we got in, not 2 minutes into the ride, we did a little shoulder in. I'm like, okay, go straight. Then we're going to do haunches in. And he got his butt under him. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fabulous. And I was like, wait, we're going vertical. And then, cuss words in head, because you're like, how's this going to go down, right? And I'm thinking forward. But when your horse does that, it doesn't matter. Like we were listening earlier in the conversation to whomever it was, I forget, was saying, think of doing this and this will occur. Let me tell you, I thought really strongly about forward, but it was like the forward went up like a wave. We weren't going forward on a horizontal plane. It was vertical and it was a little scary.
Yeah.
So we went through, oh my gosh, like all sorts of different body workers, medical professionals, talking to vets, farriers, you name it, giving him time off, going back to long lining. So we were doing trail rides that were long lining, and like it was great for my physical health and shape, but and he was doing lovely. But it's as discussed in the review, that right hind. And like short of x-rays, I stopped there because I'm like, the vet said, realistically, if there was something x-ray worthy, because, there are hundreds of dollars to get done, he said he would see or notice something more obvious. He's
Right.
like, he really could just be growing. And you guys had said that for a mental and physical component as well. So I kind of took all that into consideration and put x-rays on hold. So we're still at groundwork. I'll hop on, I'll walk him around. He's had 3 weeks off at this point now because of the weather.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, yeah.
You know, like it's interesting because he's so athletic and he's got so much go and drive to do stuff. Like when he gets going, it's like I feel like I could throw away the reins and he's still just going to maintain that posture. Right?
Yeah.
You talk about stirrup stepping, and if I just think about my right pinky toe, we will go to the right laterally like nobody's business. And he's engaged and he's forward and he crosses and he doesn't whack his legs or anything. And it's like, how are you able to do this? And yet all of a sudden you've decided to rear.
Yeah, it's a second.
So
What actually, you know, I really like the picture in the snow. So once it's warm enough to ride and you have snow, maybe ride him in the snow, because that, you know,
Yes.
there's some resistance. It's like riding in water in a way too, and maybe that makes him go
Push.
forward a little bit more and push more. I think that's what he needs. He needs to push a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this might be good. And plus, if anything happens, you fall softly, right? You don't have to worry about it.
The only downside is that if I lose him out in the field, we've got hundreds of acres in which I have to try and collect him from.
Oh, no.
Just put him there into one of the pastures,
Yeah.
and you'll know where to find him.
That's true.
Yeah, I think the likelihood is that he would go back to the barn and just meet me there and hang out over the zappy fence. But yeah, I agree totally. I'm kind of waiting for the snow because with all this cold weather, we've actually not really gotten the snow this year.
No.
It's true. It's got to be close to 0, right, to get snow. If it's too
But
cold,
even
it's
so,
snow.
well, we're just not getting the precipitation at all, like in any form,
Wow.
which is a little concerning.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so definitely it's on my my list of things to go out and do. The long trotting out in the field, like honestly, we were getting that going pretty good on the long lines.
Mhm.
And I was having to run pretty hard behind him.
Run, no.
But you know, he was being really good about it because I could take him and we could go on the long lines. We could go for like this long straight trot. And then when I'd start to peter out, I'd ask him for some lateral and then let him bend around, kind of half halt on his hind end and come around into a circle around me and then peter out to a walk so that I could have a break. And I thought, you know, let's try and use this to our advantage because it's that, like, I think we've established it's the hind end. That's the issue right now, right? So how do we get him to pay attention to it, to use it in a progressive forward fashion instead of a...
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That brings me to talking a little bit about the course, because it would be great to talk about what you have learned in regards to the biomechanics that have helped you to address all of those issues and to train him, and because you're an instructor, to train your students too.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, my students love you guys even if they don't take courses.
That's right.
The Thursday or the Tuesday posts with Thomas Says, sometimes my students will come on the weekend and they'll be like, Thomas said, and I'm like, you know, I wrote that, right? So I know.
That's so funny.
So yeah, they absolutely love it. You guys explain it in such simplistic terms, and there's of course the what, the why, and the how, that we can back the train up. We can go, that's what I want. How do I get from here to there? And I tell my students, we take all these little bits and pieces and they become these little tidbits. And then these little tidbit pieces fit into our puzzle piece of what that pictorial end goal is. And like we have a whiteboard in the arena and I will write goals on there. And it's anything from, you know, somebody will say, I had a really tough week at work and my breathing isn't where it needs to be at. And then, you know, you pull from different modalities, whatever you've been exposed to as an instructor, right? But like even some of the Feldenkrais stuff that Catherine has us doing, like moving the arms, right? And following it. Well, can you take a breath in to this point? Can you exhale to this point? Well, now you've regulated your breathing through movement, right?
Yes.
So then they can take that up onto the horse. So like, and then you back the train up even further on that. Well, then you find out that some client has a horse that if you put your arm out, the horse is like, holy heckin' crap, what are you doing, human? And then you're like, okay, so now we're going to work on this on the ground, then we're going to bring it up. And of course, with all of your stuff, we can take it like from whether it's the long lining. And again, what are we looking for? How are we able to recognize what we're looking for? And then how are we going to apply that once we get on the horse? And you guys address that stuff in the course, which I don't think there's anyone else out there that does that, right? Like they'll say, take it from the ground up. What are you taking from the ground? And what are you moving up? And exactly, how are you going to go about doing that? And how do you recognize it? And what is it exactly that you're after? Like, here's your end goal. That's what you want.
Sure. Uh-oh, we're frozen. Somebody's frozen.
What tidbit do you need to, it says my internet connection is unstable.
Yes,
Can you still hear me? Sorry.
You're back.
Sorry. But yeah, it's just taking all those tidbits of the what, the why, and the how from the ground, being able to move it up and knowing how to take those pieces and move forward with them from the ground up. And I love that I'm gaining that knowledge to be able to impart to them. And then they're able to take, you know, the challenges and go, holy heck, this is really neat.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great if you can turn around and teach it to your students, and then by teaching you learn more yourself.
Yeah, it helps you to be a better rider and trainer. You understand it better when you have to turn around and explain it and coach your students through it too. This is why we want to put together the certification program at the end of this that we're now working on. So at the end of what, why, how, right? It leads into this certification program, trainer certifications, because we want actually our students to go out and teach this out in the world. We don't want them to hoard it and just keep it. It doesn't need to just stay right here. It's better for everyone if they go take it and share it. Yeah, that's
100% it is. And it's breaking that mold, that mold that we have in the horse community. I don't care what discipline, English, Western, jumping, eventing, dressage, I don't care what it is. Unfortunately, it's stereotypical that it's me, myself, and I. And it doesn't matter if you're an instructor or you're just riding with your friends. Everyone wants to clump in their group. And like, I don't know. I got really pissed off about it when I opened this facility. And at the end of my board agreement, I have in big bold letters. I wrote, no drama llamas. If this is you, please don't even apply to work here.
Right.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
Set the tone.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, it's so hard to run a facility, especially if you have lots of different borders.
It is. However, me taking the course with you guys and me doing even my own thing and having clients come and go, they will watch me take exercises and do something with one of the horses, whether it's a training horse that they know about, it's their horse that they know about, or it's one of my horses and they know about. They see the progress. So even if they aren't interacting with me and trying it, it's through demonstration, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably another huge component, is that even if you don't have that support where you're at, go ahead and do it anyways, because you have the support in this Ritter community.
Right, you do.
Right? Go and do it. Video it if you can. If you can't, document it to the best of your ability. Verbal questions are just as good, right? Yes. If you have photos and videos, that's fabulous. A lot of times I don't, right? Because you know, I'm by myself, or I'm like, oh, I've only got a certain amount of time and my phone has 10%, but I know I'm going to need that for later. And, you know,
of course. Exactly.
So yeah, makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I think we'll just start to wrap this little portion up because it's been a very long session, 2.5 hours. Can you believe it? Talking about this, and almost everyone has stayed, which is really amazing. But I wanted to ask you, what is it that you're fascinated with learning and exploring next? Or I've asked others, what their goal is, what they want to learn this year, but I kind of know what you're working on, but what are you fascinated with exploring.
I am going to message you guys later because something about what I'm working towards that you guys know. I got a personalized letter about, so I have some exciting news, but I'm keeping it under wraps. So I'm going to tell you guys later. But in regards to that, I just want to impart what I learn as passionately as I can to others so that they can better their journey. It's not even about me.
Yeah, yeah.
I love being able to share what I love. I don't know if that
Yes.
exactly makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah, and then like I have one horse in particular, Riptide, that I'd really like to be able to get flying changes, not so willy-nilly. Because it's like with him, I'm like, I think it, and he's like, how about this? How about that? How about this? And then that. And I'm like, dude, stop. He's like, well, you're thinking about it, therefore I'm going to do it. Or other times he's like, you're thinking about it and I'm not going to do it. And with Zan, we had started canter shoulder in, and he was amazing at it. And then when you asked for him to bring his shoulder back, he would sometimes change on the straightaway to his other lead.
Yeah.
So it was the start of it through that other exercise where you do lateral at X and then come around, change direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think maybe some flying changes, but I'm not really going to pin anything in particular.
Yeah. I always take it as a good sign if the horse starts just to do them, even if they're a little bit random and a little bit out of control, but at least it shows you he can do them. And
Yes.
he needs a little guidance on when we want a flying change and when we don't want a flying change, right? So, once they do them under saddle and it seems like it's easy for them, they just get a little crazy about them. But it's good. You just have to educate them basically. Okay, now we want the flying change. Now we don't. There's a counter canter too. It's not.
Oh yeah.
Because sometimes they forget. There's like change. Once they understand the principle, then they get carried away a little bit. But then you just sort it out, and then it'll be good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, answering my mom's text message really quick about dinner.
Dinner, of course.
It's always about dinner at this time. When's dinner?
Their stomach's on a schedule.
Yes. So, like I said, I want to wrap it up, but I wanted to. I would love to talk a little bit, just share just 5 minutes really quick about the What, Why, How course, if anybody is interested in hearing about it. Otherwise, we could just go have dinner. But if somebody is interested in hearing about the What, Why, How course, we can talk a little bit about it for just a few minutes. And let me know in the chat if anybody's interested. And Jen, I'm going to demote you. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you.
And of course, it's an ongoing story. It's an ongoing story for all of us.
Always.
Always.
But I love hearing what you have going in the future.
Yeah, it's great to hear all the different stories and all the different backgrounds and horses and different continents, different
we all come
backgrounds.
together
It's
for
really
the
good.
common love of our horses and training.
Yeah.
We all love understanding how to train. That's what brought me to dressage. I wanted to understand how to train horses, to really train. I came from a Western background, but I wanted to understand training. And that's what brought me to dressage, because that's where you really got into the real training. It was, you're dealing with the mind, the body, and the spirit of the horse. So thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks.
You're
I look forward to next time when we get some updates.
Oh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Stay warm.
Yes, stay warm.
Thank you. We will.
It'll look forward to spring, and then it'll be probably the mud, but it's the next adventure.
Exactly.
The mud and the bugs. Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
And so lots of people said they look forward to starting. These are all people that are in What, Why, How. Everybody says, I'm already signed up. Okay, I guess we'll wrap it up with this then.
And Ken says, thank you. This was inspiring. Francis says, a wonderful night and great stories from everyone. Thank you so much.
Yes, we've been going for 2.5 hours, so I don't blame you all for. But If you would like to hear more about it, just send me an email at ritterdressage@gmail.com or click on the link. Let me get a link. It takes me a quick moment to gather that up.
Yeah.
Signed up, lots of people saying, I'm signed up.
Oh, Cynthia Levick, yeah, new one. Huh?
Yay.
She said, love all your courses. Thanks for this session.
Thank you.
Yeah, the 4 ladies that we showcased today,
Yes.
really, you know, they did several courses. Usually they did more than one course, and there was a big improvement
Yes.
in their riding the horses, their understanding through the courses. That was really nice to see.
Wasn't all really clear that when you sign up for the What, Why, How course, it runs for, right now it's a 9-month course for each level, but it doesn't stop there. It's a lifetime. You have lifetime access. You have lifetime access to all the Q&As and the hot seats. That means the coaching with us. So it is literally the best deal you can get anywhere for coaching and help. You get all the theory, you get the help, you get everything. But I'm going to drop the link for you and you can check it out yourself. We start on Monday, that's January 22nd, and we'd love to see you there.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody that is our alumni that are here and our new What, Why, How members that are here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, your enthusiasm. Maria Bloman says it's a lifetime investment. It really is.
It is.
Yes.
But you'll have it for the rest of your life.
You will. Yeah.
You know, you could hear it a little bit that you know, some of our students are doing this for the 3rd time.
Yeah.
And every time they do it, they get something else out of it.
And they get full participation. It's not like you just get access to something, but you get full participation, the whole kit and caboodle.
And of course, you know, as you progress, you know, you're in a different place next time you take it. So you hear different things, you know, learn different things, even though it's the same materials, you know, that you're looking at. But it's like reading a good book, right? Every time you read the book, you get like more detail and little different things. Like when I read Gustav Steinbrich's book, I always get more information out of it and different things depending on where I am,
where you are,
learning journey.
Yeah, because it's like a spiral that you're always you're always revisiting the same concepts on a different level of understanding. So it looks different every time because you see different things, you understand it differently. You have a full range of other experiences that you bring to it each time you revisit the topics. So it's an amazing learning journey, and we'd love to have you join us.
Yeah, so they're saying how nice the friendships are.
Yes.
It's true. That's the whole other thing that
it's a tribe, it's a whole community family. Yeah.
Through the Facebook group, you know, everybody can connect, and we have these learning pods, and a lot of people make friends for life, you know, and then if you're in the same area roughly, you can meet up in person, and otherwise just on Zoom, you know, meet regularly, exchange ideas, thoughts, questions, you know. Yeah.
There's so much more that we can tell you about, but go check it out at the link. And if you have any questions at all, ask us. You can even, if you would like to schedule a consult with us to see if it's a good fit for you and your horse, just email us at ritterdressage@gmail.com and you can schedule a little consult. Or in many of our emails, there's a link also, and you can just book it yourself right then and there. And we'll meet with you, talk about it, hear your situation. And if it's legit, not the right time, not a good fit, we will tell you. We will definitely tell you. Great. Lots of great comments here. I am rereading the timing of the aids. Awesome. Yeah. And we've brought in things from all of our other courses, even more into the new version of What, Why, How now. So it has elements of straightness and contact and connection, flying changes, canter. It has all of this integrated in.
Everything.
Everything now.
Luke says, I agree with Jen. You as a teacher, you have to think for the horse and the rider. I learned so much in the courses, and Thomas and Shana are always there to help also.
Yeah, Luke is awesome.
Yeah, Luke is not a professional, you know,
Yep.
and trainers can benefit from the courses in the sense that they might find additional ways of explaining the same thing. So it could be like if you're a trainer, you take the course, there's nothing new or earth-shattering, like you basically know the stuff, but you may find additional like exercises that you can use to teach your students. And you may find additional, I don't know, images, explanations that you can use. And you know, as a teacher, it's always good to have as many different explanations as possible and as many different ways of, you know, approaching something as possible, so you don't get stuck. And yeah, so you know, we have a number of professionals in the courses, and I'm always hoping that I can give them like additional ammunition that they can use for their students to explain things to them, you know. Ultimately, it's always the same stuff, right? We always try to explain the same things. Everybody does. Everybody has different ways of approaching it. Everybody has different explanations, and the more, you know, explanations you have, and from, you know, the more different angles you can come from, the more likely you are to get through to the student so that they understand it too. Yeah. Oh, Tanya Pohlmann says, thank you so much for this evening conversation. So much information behind the scenes. Love the way you do things like you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Tanya is a student of ours from Germany, and she's been in a number of courses.
Jen
too.
Mache, she says the more tools in your toolbox, the better. That's the principle of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, we're helping people who are doing things for the first time, right? Whether you're amateur or professional, like we try to help you train your horse, even if it's like the very first time you do it. But I think there's also value for the professionals who've trained a number of horses. Now they have students. And yeah, sometimes you have students who don't understand maybe the way you're explaining things. And then you have another way of explaining it. Maybe they explain. Maybe they understand that a different way. And for me, myself, sometimes I had to either hear the same explanation many, many times until I don't know, they made sense and I could implement it and understand it. And sometimes you need to hear the same subject explained in 100 different ways. And then maybe the 100th time makes a difference and you understand it, you can do it. Or it's this cumulative effect that I've seen too. It's like same with the horses. When you train horses, sometimes you have to present the same subject from 100 different angles, and then every angle adds a little something, and after the, you know, whatever 90th, 100th, 110th different angle that you explain it from, the horse gets it. And the students are the same way, right? Sometimes you have to hear something, read something from described in many different ways, and every description adds a little something, and then eventually you get it, you know. So for the trainers, it's beneficial to have as many different ways of explaining the same thing as you can.
Many lovely comments. I just checked over in the various places we're streaming to. Lydia Frost says, Thomas and Shana, your courses are all amazing,
thank
especially
you.
the What, Why, How. I've learned so much. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you.
That's lovely.
And I would love to see everybody join us. Many of you are already, and you've already joined us. You're already our alumni or new course members. Congratulations, welcome. And we will see you all on Monday in the course. Thank you.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to sign out. Bye.